Everyone who finishes the tutorial must undergo a test to measure their strength. That year's test took place in the labyrinth. A hunter examiner warned, anyone without talent should forfeit now. This will be dangerous. The crowd grew tense, except for the protagonist, who was half asleep in the back, drooling while the examiner explained the rules. The surroundings began to shift, transforming into the labyrinth. Everyone sprinted forward, while the protagonist lagged behind, calling out to the examiner, asking, "Hey, where's the exit?" The man stared at him in confusion. Was this guy really a newbie? Why was he wearing slippers and such a pathetic outfit? And why was he so relaxed? Annoyed, the examiner asked, "Is the hunter exam a joke to you?" The protagonist tilted his head and casually proposed a bet. He'd finish the test in 20 seconds. The examiner refused at first, saying he wasn't in the mood. Then the protagonist mocked him for being scared, and he agreed to a wager of 10 million won. Before he could say anything else, the protagonist dashed forward and placed his hand on the wall. The examiner was already imagining how easily he'd win that money. But our boy pulled back his fist and punched the wall with all his strength. Everyone watching the test stared in confusion, wondering what he was doing. Then sparks exploded outward, and the entire labyrinth collapsed. With a single punch, he broke through to the other side. Turning back, he said calmly, "The exit's right here. Now pay me my 10 million. The professional hunters watching were left speechless, while the protagonist laughed, declaring that it was the easiest 10 million won he'd ever made. But first we gotta see what happened in the tower where he came from. Everyone is running in fear from the dungeon. They're being thrown around and blasted into the floor, while our guy just stands there, staring at the menacing final boss in front of him. The creature tries to intimidate him by getting closer, but unfortunately for it, the boy just laughs, clearly enjoying himself. The entire city has heard about this advanced player, the guy who just defeated the boss with a single kick. The creature can't understand how that's even possible in the tutorial, while the protagonist casually asks, "So, who's the real boss here?" He wears a crazed smile and goes completely wild. It looks like he's having fun, but in reality, he's bored out of his mind. Normally this boss kills 70 out of every 95 players. Yet here, it's taken down by a flying kick from this guy. This marks his 1394th clear. A portal appears in front of him, and theoretically, passing through it should return him to the normal world. But for him, things are different. Instead, he's sent back to level 1 of the tutorial. He starts laughing like he's about to snap. Dropping to his knees, he yells at the tower, demanding to be sent home. How many times does he have to do this? All his stats are above S+, something that shouldn't even be possible for someone his age. 12 years ago, alongside his companions, he cleared the tower. Everyone was thrilled to finally return to reality, but when they crossed the portal, he alone was sent back to the first floor. The tower declared that he had been cursed. That's when he began running the tower again and again. Over time, he encountered other players, helping them escape while remaining trapped himself. 12 years passed like this, until one fateful day when he finally defeated the boss and the entire tower exploded. With the tower's explosions, a portal appeared. From it, the boy stepped out. After 12 years and maxing out every stat possible, he was finally back on Earth. On the eve of the hunter's big test, live hunter mags buzzing about the mysterious vet. Info's scarce, and rookie Kang Hyun Lee might steal the spotlight. Lee, a martial arts whiz, is the journalist's focus as they question the vet's existence. Kang Hyun Lee, in the exam, dreams of becoming a legend, ready for battle. While others bail from a monster threat, Lee stands his ground, ready to throw down. Sword in hand, he's all in for his dream. A kendo champ with a trophy case, Lee's the top hunter in his crew. He knows a killer first impression's key to success. Lee remembers the protagonist's epic rise, an unstoppable force in the tower. Yun Lee, who saw it all, can't believe he got overshadowed, while the protagonist, victorious, announces his return. Now, in the ranking exam, Yun Lee and the others watch, stunned at the chaos unleashed. For safety reasons, the exam gets paused, and everyone's told to chill and wait for more info. Behind the scenes, the film crew is in panic mode, trying to find some clear footage of the chaos. The cameras, which were all about Yun Lee, totally missed the real MVP, who accidentally stole the show. The director, spotting the hero on screen, declares the rise of a new superstar. Yun Lee, feeling salty, glares at the snoozing hero, while the hunters chat about the explosion, clueless about the veteran player in their midst. Yun Lee, though, sees a chance to snatch back the spotlight. The committee announces the next exam is about to kick off, waking the hero from his nap. Determined to step out of the veteran's shadow, Yun Lee heads to the exam, ready to face some monsters. Sword in hand, Yun Lee takes on an ogre. With magic stones and high-tech gear, the virtual showdown becomes a wild ride, aiming to smash as many monsters as possible in a short time. Yun-Li shows off his electric moves, wowing everyone with lightning shooting from his sword. With a prodigy in the mix, Yun-Li unleashes a flurry of lightning-fast strikes, taking down 78 creatures and snagging the top score. The viewers, glued to the broadcast, say if it wasn't for the veteran, Yun-Li would have been the champ. Hyonu strolls past Yun-Li, yawning, unfazed by the buzz, while guild masters watch, curious about Hyonu's comeback. The exam kicks back in, and Yun-Li has 120 seconds to tackle a swarm of holographic monsters popping up around him. The audience watches the screen closely. The hero, even surrounded by monsters, stays super chill. The countdown hits 0, and the monsters charge at him. Moving like a bullet, the hero pops the first monster's head. He's so fast, the cameras can't keep up. The orc horde gets wiped out fast. It looks like the hero vanished, and the monsters' heads just started popping. Even the guild leaders can't track his moves, wondering if he's using some secret trick. They drop that idea since he just left the tutorial. Watching the slow-mo footage, it's clear the hero's just strolling up to the monsters and casually taking them out, no fancy moves needed. This insane power and speed freak out the guild masters, wondering what he did in the tower. When time's up, the hero stands in the room, surrounded by bodies. He took down 248 monsters solo, smashing the old record. The online crowd goes wild over his epic performance. Some think he used magic to move like that. Yun-Li, reading these comments, crushes his phone, super annoyed that everyone's talking about Kim, not him. Fuming with rage, Yun-Li punches his room's wall repeatedly. He worked so hard, even using shady tricks to climb the ranks, only to be outdone by some random. In the waiting room, a woman shows him a list, asking what's up with it. She explains it's a list of guilds wanting to meet him. This woman is Alice, the head of intelligence for the Hunters Association. She says loads of guilds are keen on him, thanks to his potential. The hero glances at the list, realizing this important woman isn't just here for that. He asks why she's really here, and she says it's personal. Besides wanting to meet the hunter who shook the world, Alice suggests he join the Aries Guild, handing him a contract right after. Joining the guild would net him 10 billion won. Shocked by the huge sum, he jokes if Korea's in an economic crisis or if the currency tanked. Alice explains the economy's booming. Even the lands where he used to live now cost about 1.3 billion. The hero's obviously stunned by this news. Things have changed a lot since he entered the tower. Alice adds, the Aries Guild is super keen on him and willing to pay double to sign him. He wonders if someone from the government's pushing a guild, and Alice says it's a personal request from the Aries Guild's scout. Alice says he doesn't need to decide now, but the hero cuts her off, already deciding he doesn't want to be tied to any guild, tossing the contract on the table. At first, Alice thinks he's joking, but the hero stands firm on his decision. After bouncing out of the room, he's deep in thought about the offer. In this world, it's all about give and take. They didn't just throw 10 billion at him for kicks. If he said yes, he'd have to hustle. Chillin' in bed, surrounded by a mountain of snacks. The lazy dude's all about that no-work, comfy life. Back to the convo, she asks if he's gonna become a hunter, but he drops some knowledge, saying even without guild hookups, some hunters roll solo. She thinks he's kinda full of himself, but still says if he changes his mind, he can hit up the number on the card. Lying in bed, he's ticked off it took him forever to find out about mercenary hunters. If he'd known sooner, he wouldn't have wasted time on the hunter test and could have been snoozing. He peeps at the guild list and spots some familiar names. 5 days later, in a Japanese joint, he doesn't recognize the folks he's chatting with. The 3 big shots of Korea's top guilds are right there. They were his old crew 12 years back. Seokwan, who was his age, is now an old dude. Shy Si-hyun turned into a total heartthrob, and Seoyeon, who was just a bookworm kid, is practically a whole new person. He remembers how Si-hyun used to hide behind him, making him super awkward. And that time, Seoyeon peed herself when she saw Banksy on the 14th floor, thinking she was a goner. He's stoked to see his pals again and munches on his sushi, wondering how he survived 12 years without it. They reminisce about the day they nabbed the merman, and he kept singing about wanting sushi. He even sliced the merman's tail for sashimi. It's obvious he's always been a wild card in that tower. His friends, thinking back, say it was a regular thing to hear tales about him inside the tower. Curious, Kim asks about these stories, finding out the dude's basically a legend and the stuff he pulled in the tower still pops up on TV, making him a bit nervous. The ideas he had to kill time are now on TV. He wonders which ones, since he did a ton of stuff. A lot of what he did was embarrassing once he finished a dungeon in his birthday suit. Another time he did it dressed as a goblin. They say the most epic stories are when he beat a boss while busting a move, and the day he took down all the monsters using just his feet, from the 1st to the 10th floor. He's relieved the more awkward stories stayed put. While munching his sushi, he says those were just things he felt like doing at the time. His old crew, who already thought he was a beast after the evaluation test, now just see it confirmed. He says being stuck in that tower made him do all sorts of stuff, even taking on a disciple. He can't remember exactly when, but it was when he was hanging out between floors 50 and 60, finding a kid left behind in the tower. Back then, he had this idea to create a martial style, so, rocking a big cloak and a skull mask, he shows up to the kid, acting all mysterious monk. After that, he started training the kid, making him balance jars of water on one foot, lifting super heavy stuff, and telling him to focus his chakra to smash a pillar. But it was all a sham. The only thing he did was use brute force. Thinking back, he feels bad for the kid and is glad he wore a mask, definitely not wanting to bump into him. He asks how things were outside, and they keep the chat going. Back home, lying in bed, he opens the status window again, no longer seeing the tutorial limit message. His age is back to 24, like he really lost 12 years. His goal now is to stack some cash and live a chill life until he kicks the bucket. But even though a bunch of messages vanished, one stuck around, the one saying the infinite cycle was removed. Opening the message, he finds a quest telling him to take down 3 bosses from these dungeons. At the same time, someone calls from outside his room. Opening the doorman says some folks from the Aries Guild are here to see him. The protagonist says he's not interested, but the doorman keeps pushing. Seeing that they won't stop bugging him until he makes it super clear he's not interested, he follows the guard to where the recruiter is chilling. There, on the sofa, a dude in a suit with a guard behind him is waiting. Kim's all straight up saying he's made it crystal clear he's not joining any guild. The guy introduces himself as Byung-ho Kang, the HR dude of the Aries Guild. Byung-ho asks if Kim can really level up as a hunter without a guild, saying there'll be no unnecessary drama if Kim joins Aries. Kim gets the vibe, asking if they really rolled up to his crib to throw threats. The guard gets all salty with Kim's sass, but Byung-ho tells him to chill and not do anything dumb. Kim says he knows their guild's rep, calling them a bunch of scumbags who hog half of Korea's dungeons. Chatting with his old crew, Kim found out you need a permission ticket to hit up a dungeon. The Aries Guild hogs 66% of all the country's dungeons, from rank A, perfect for farming, to rank D, good for noobs. Basically, the guild leaves everyone with 2 choices: cough up for their pricey ticket or join the guild. The guard smacks the table, trying to scare Kim, and again suggests he rethink the offer, hinting they could end him if he doesn't play ball. The guard yeets the table against the wall, flexing his rank A hunter status, and asks if Kim thinks he stands a chance. With a grin, Kim keeps poking the bear, casually lounging on the sofa. Kim stands up and slips off his slipper, saying he's gonna teach them some manners. The guard, all ticked off, charges at Kim, but with a slipper slap to the face, he's sent flying against the wall. Byung-ho looks shook at his buddy, while Kim calmly strolls over. Before Kim gets close, Byung-ho thinks Kim might have some serious potential but is just a big fish in a small pond. The same guard, now part of the wall decor, is totally out cold, and Byung-ho is baffled by what just went down. Byung-ho wonders how Kim's so strong without even using magic, while Kim strolls over asking if he knows what he hates the most. Cornered against the wall, Byung-ho's freaking out while Kim keeps talking. The thing Kim hates the most is when people try to throw threats his way. With a wicked grin, Kim clocks Byung-ho. Later that night, Kim's at a buddy's place, spilling the tea on what went down. He says he might have gone a bit overboard and that the Aries crew is relentless with their payback. But Kim's not sweating the guild at all. Si-hyun keeps explaining that no one messes with Aries because they hold grudges, make threats, block people from joining guilds, and silence them in dungeons. Si-hyun says what Kim did was kinda savage and offers him to join the guild, which he turns down. Kim's got a plan brewing and asks if Si-hyun's heard of the Aderon lab. Kim's been curious for 12 years. Why was he the only one who couldn't escape the tower? His questions are loaded with anger and resentment. Who's the jerk who did this? Why was Kim stuck for 12 years? Kim thinks if he can crack these secrets, he'll find the one responsible. Then he can make them suffer like he did. The Aderon lab is a rank C dungeon. Its boss is a mad scientist half-cyborg who's all about experimenting on others. It's known as a good spot for beginners to level up. Si-hyun's not sure if they'll let Kim in, since this dungeon's also under Aries Guild's thumb. Annoyed, Kim asks if there's no law to stop the monopoly, but Si-hyun explains the government's too busy to deal with hunter issues. Si-hyun adds that the reason they can off people in dungeons without getting caught is because the cops can't investigate there, calling them accidental deaths. The protagonist decides to crash the place, but Si-hyun quickly shoots it down, saying they've got eyes on it 24/7. Kim decides to face them head-on, getting another warning that doing so will make the guild his enemy. Remembering what he did to the last 2 guild guys, Kim says it's a bit late to worry about that. At the Aries Guild HQ, they're chatting about expanding into China, Russia, and Japan. Alright, buckle up, cause this story's about to get wild. So, Seonu Hook, this top-tier S-rank hunter dude, is all chill about their guild's expansion. He's like, who cares how long it takes to go global, we're already crushing it. It's like when you're running from a dungeon boss, you just gotta be faster than the dude next to you, not the boss itself. Classic move, right? Then, one of his crew rolls up with a status report on Hyunwoo Kim. They use some fancy tech to check out his moves in the tutorial, and the boss is like, whoa, this guy's got some serious power. But when he finds out they didn't recruit him, he's all, hey, we're better off without him. But let's be real, having someone like Kim would be epic for the guild. He'd be tearing through labyrinths and dungeons like a pro. But, you know, he might just aim for the director's chair. So the boss is like, forget recruiting him, let's teach him a lesson. As Yu's heading out, this red-haired dude with a man bun stops him, saying there's drama at the Aderon lab. Meanwhile, in the Cheombo Mountains, this girl wants to hunt in the dungeon, but the guards are all, no ticket, no entry. Try the free labyrinth instead. One guard's being a total creep, asking for her number to let her in. Enter our hero, Kim. The guard's like, no bathrooms here, dude, go find a bush. But Kim's all, nah, I'm heading into the dungeon. The guard thinks it's a joke because it's super dangerous. Kim's had enough, takes off his sandal, and the guards are like, what the heck? Kim calls them over, and when one tries to shoo him away, bam, sandal to the face, sending him flying. The other guard's like, what just happened? And Kim's like, hand over your shoes, or you'll end up like your buddy. Now rocking some fancy shoes that cost a fortune for weight reduction magic. Kim's like, these are comfy. He even gives his sandals back, saying he's not a bad guy. The girl bounces, and the guards left, staring at the sandal wreckage. Back at the Seoul Guild HQ, Yongli's flipping out at Hyun for letting Kim leave. Hyun's like, chill, Kim's unstoppable. All I could do was warn him about the Aries Guild. They remember how Kim's usually chill but turns into a beast if you mess with him. Kim's checking out his new kicks, and his pals are like, don't sweat it. After chatting about the Aries Guild, Kim asks about his status, leaving Yong all shook. Inside the dungeon, Aderon's hunting for test subjects, and a group of adventurers is spying on him. They're debating what to do since the Aries Guild doesn't care about the boss because he's not profitable. They figure they might as well take him on, but the young woman doubts their skills. They did some homework and found out the boss has high defense but weak attacks. If they can tire him out, they might win. Just as they're gearing up for battle, they spot a guy strolling up to the boss. They're all, who's this brave soul? Flashback to 12 years ago, Kim's pals learned about his tough childhood in an orphanage, where he was told to keep his head down and not show he was parentless. After his parents passed, his cousin dumped him in an orphanage and swiped his inheritance. Maybe because he lost trust in people, even though he's chill most times. If anyone tries to boss him around, Kim's got this wicked grudge he just can't hide. The giant monster, half cyborg, is all like, what should I try first? While making sparks fly with its blades. The main dude tells the monster to chill, but the boss just cracks up, wondering why it should even bother stopping. With just one epic kick, the main dude wrecks the boss's body, leaving everyone totally mind-blown. Checking his status window again, one mission's down, and the next one's in the forest village. The adventurer squad spots him. He's the hot topic in the hunter scene, the advanced player. In the Aries Guild's basement, the guild master's sidekick is chatting with Cheong Myong, the guild's management chief. He shows off the main dude's evaluation, leaving Myong stunned that someone fresh out of the tutorials got 2 rank B attributes. Myong's like, this guy's basically a monster, and asks if they want him to handle this dude. They already know the main dude crashed one of their dungeons and joke about how embarrassing it must have been for the director. If the main dude's really that strong, maybe Myong can't just give him a lesson and might have to take him out, but he'll try to keep it low-key since his boss is busy with stuff in China. Things there are wild, cause 2 years back when the Pado Guild popped up, they pretty much took over half of China's dungeons. The guild leader, the mastermind behind it all, has only been out of the tower for 4 years, and all the top members are famous for their beastly skills. But the craziest part? The leader's identity, an S-rank hunter, is a total mystery. Since they're swamped with China stuff, they don't plan to sweat it over the main dude. The main dude, snapping pics, is blown away by how Tex leveled up, taking a pic of his buddy and freaking out that he can game on his phone. He mentions the dungeon he's eyeing is run by his guild, but the boss is MIA right now. Kim, all fired up, asks why, and the main dude says the boss got whooped a few weeks back. The real-world system's different from the tower. There, monsters bounce back in a day, but IRL, they play by different rules. Regular monsters regen constantly, but the boss takes a bit to come back. The main dude's worried he'll have to wait a whole month to beat it, but chills out when he hears it's just 2 or 3 days till respawn. He asks when he'll register his ranking with the Hunter Association. Cause with that ranking, he'll score some sweet sponsor perks and cash. Talking money gets the main dude hyped, asking how much he can rake in. He breaks it down. B ranks can pull in up to 1.3 million, while higher ranks score way more. He himself bags 7 million won. Next day, Hyonu hits up the Hunter Association with Si-hyun. The dude at the desk asks if Hyonu's there to register, asking for his name. As soon as he finds out Hyonu's the guy who bounced after 12 years, he remembers Victor was on the hunt for him. Finding him kinda cocky for a newbie, he figures his score's gonna be rank B tops. He hands Hyonu a box, the Eye of Truth. It's gonna measure his status grade and flash it on the hologram nearby. When Hyonu grabs the box and the hologram pops up, the dude's jaw drops at the statuses shown there. He yells, saying it makes 0 sense for Hyonu to have those statuses, and once again, Hyonu's news is blowing up. Internet folks are buzzing that, except for Magic, all his statuses are rank A and there's no one else like that around. On the drive back, Hyonu's amazed at how fast news spreads online. Si-hyun says it's bound to happen, cause besides his beastly statuses, he also stirred up drama in the Aries Guild dungeon. Si-hyun warns that the Aries Guild's probably got all the deets on Hyonu, and after today's heads up, they won't just sit around. While giving the main dude a heads up to be careful, Si-hyun's gaming on his phone. He cracks up, showing the phone. On the game's loading screen, there's a hunter striking a goofy pose, loaded with cheesy effects. Si-hyun, with a deadpan face, says that's him, leaving the car in awkward silence. The protagonists all, "Yo Si-hyun, how come you're always chillin' when other guildmasters are swamped?" Si-hyun's like, "Nah dude, I'm busy too, just took a day off to help you out," but the protagonist's not buying it. Back at the Aries Guild's underground, Myong and Cheonggang are totally wowed by the protagonist's power. Myong's all, "No worries, I got Cheonggang here, the hunter who's about to hit rank S in China." Meanwhile, in Forest Village, Hyonu and Si-hyun are just chillin', waiting for the boss to respawn. As they go deeper into the forest, some dude's watching them with a grin from a few meters away. The protagonist's like, "Who's this dude tagging along with us?" Si-hyun's all, "He's just here to help gather some materials." The protagonist's confused, but Si-hyun explains the boss drop stuff worth 20 or 35 million won. Shocked, the protagonist's like, "What do people even do with this stuff?" Si-hyun's like, "Well, someone dressed like you wouldn't get it, but they're for making weapons and armor." The helper's like, "Mind if I record this raid?" Streaming's a cash cow. Hyonu, the top mercenary, wants an 80% of the profits. They keep trekking deeper into the forest. Si-hyun hands the protagonist a map, saying the forest's a maze further in. The protagonist, clueless about maps, just tosses it and heads for a big tree. He tells the helper to get a good shot as he gears up to punch it. His punch is so epic it clears a path to the boss, a two-headed ogre. The helper's blown away by Hyonu's skills, filming and following to the boss. With a leap, the protagonist's up at the boss's height, dodging attacks and climbing its shoulder. He kicks it down, climbing on top of it. Under the moonlight, in seconds, the protagonist takes down a dungeon boss. The helper's stoked, sure his vid's gonna blow up, while the tree guy's grinning wickedly. It's Cheonggang, checking out the protagonist's skills, thinking he's the real deal, an advanced player. His stats are insane, no magic or skills needed, but Cheonggang's already figured out how to beat him. Tomorrow, when he hits the swamp, is the time to strike. The protagonist, already there, feels weird when his phone buzzes. It's Seoyeon, worried about him. He keeps moving forward. He's not scared of the Aries Guild or anything, cause he's a beast. Yesterday, Seoyeon asked why he's heading into Aries territory, and he said he's got stuff to do. She pressed for details, but he kept it vague. She wondered if he's just beefing with Aries, and he admitted kinda. Seoyeon sighed, knowing he's capable, but still worried, asking him to dodge guild members. Since the swamp's a rank A dungeon, Aries is probably waiting to invade once the boss respawns. The protagonist nods at her advice, but he's definitely not following it. In the dungeon, he bumps into a guild member who threatens him with a knife. The guy's yelling, trying to scare him, while the protagonist remembers his friend's words. Seeing the guy ready to attack, the protagonist's like, "Do they ever learn? They disrespect me, then get wrecked." The protagonist, already over it, says it's always the same, ticking off the guy who charges at him. An explosion goes off as the protagonist casually strolls away. Walking on the swamp's squishy ground, a monster in the water spots him and charges. In front of him, a massive 20-meter crocodile, the protagonist's impressed by its size. Remembering his friend's tips, he knows its hide's tough and its teeth are worth bank. The protagonist grins wickedly, charging at the boss, landing a solid hit. He says he'll take it down fast and loot everything, but the monster tries to flee. The protagonist grabs both tails, stopping it from diving into the water. The desperate monster hears him talking about a move called Giant Swing as it spun wildly in the air. He yeets it into a mountain, but, plot twist, the croc's a tough cookie and comes back for round 2. Seeing the boss's killer vibes, the main dudes all, "Wanna get smacked again?" while Cheongang's just chillin', watching. The croc lunges, and Hyonu's ready to end it, but then, bam, shiny chains snag his legs. Cheongang, sneaky as ever, ambushes Hyonu, saying it's game over as the boss gets ready to chomp. Hyonu's quick with his hands, dodging the boss's bite, but then he spots these bright red chains on his legs. Totally baffled, he's like, "What the heck?" And Cheongang, perched on a rock, goes, "Magic chains, dude. Perfect for someone with zero magic." Sitting there, the main guy's all, "Who even are you, bro?" Cheongang hops down, saying he's from the Aries Guild, sent to handle Hyonu personally. Covered in dirt, the main dude's like, "So, you're a guild hitman?" And Cheongang's like, "Bingo." Cheongang's impressed by Hyonu's raw power, tossing crocs like it's nothing. He knows Hyonu's strong, but with these chains, he's stuck. Hyonu struggles to break free, but nope, those chains aren't budging. Cheongang's all, "These aren't just any chains, they're magic, so you need magic to break them." This whole setup's tailor-made for Hyonu, fresh out of the tower with zero magic skills. Hyonu's like, "Am I really in deep trouble?" stressing Cheongang out. Cheongang's like, "Everyone acts cool when caught off guard." The main dude keeps playing it cool, making Cheongang even more ticked off. Cheongang whips out his sword, ready to strike Hyonu. As soon as the sword hits, Cheongang triggers a massive explosion. Cheongang thinks he's won, but when the smoke clears, Hyonu's chillin', asking if something was supposed to happen. Cheongang's jaw drops. His attack did zilch to Hyonu. Cheongang tries again but gets a surprise punch, flying far away. Hyonu strolls over, saying Cheongang should have chained his whole body. The guy's baffled, asking how this is possible as the chains vanish. Then, Hyonu snaps the tree he was tied to and grabs it. Since Cheongang's an assassin, he knows what's coming next. Cue the croc. Cheongang gets launched onto the croc, taking it out instantly. A mission complete alert pops up saying the status window's getting an upgrade. Back at the Aries Guild, Myung finds out Cheongang got wrecked by the main dude. The tree Cheongang was tied to is now Swamp Chow, no remains to recover. Cheongang was a beast with 2 S-rank stats and 7 abilities, yet Hyonu beat him. Myung's stressed, wondering how to handle Hyonu now. Back home, Hyonu's lounging on the couch, deep in thought. He sighs, then checks his status window. New stuff's added. Hyonu's got a status scan ability and a system invite to be a temporary guardian. Hyonu's not sure what's up, but he's stoked something's different. He thought he'd finish the mission and get tower intel, but instead he got an invite that expires in 2 hours. Sehyun comes home asking if Hyonu's eaten yet. Hyonu uses the chance to test his new ability. With status scan, he checks others' stats, but it's low level, so info's limited. Hyonu's annoyed, calling it useless, making Sehyun think it's about him. Chilling on the couch, Hyonu waits for the system update to learn about the tower. When the clock hits midnight, everything goes dark, and Hyonu's teleported to a room. In the room, a woman waits, sitting at a table in front of him. With a blank stare, she greets him, saying she's his assistant, Av. She says as long as Hyonu's alive, they'll meet often. The main dude's hyped, thinking he'll finally get answers, like why he was stuck in the tower. Face to face with Av, Hyonu waits for her to spill the tea. He asks for an explanation, but learns she only answers questions. For his first question, Hyonu asks who trapped him in the tutorial tower, but she can't answer, 'cause his status scan's too low. Hyonu's frustrated, realizing he needs to level up the scan to get answers. He keeps firing off questions, but she's totally ghosting him, leaving him so stressed he gives her a flick on the forehead. She's got no clue who she is or why she brought him, so she's got 0 answers for his questions. Av spills the tea. The Guardians are the ones who defend, simple as that. Hyonu takes a deep breath and just gives up, asking what he really needs to know. She breaks it down, saying since Hyonu's just a temp guardian, he'll get the full scoop once he levels up. Hyonu's all, "How do I become an official guardian?" She's like, "In 5 days, a rift's gonna pop up where you live. Deep inside, there's a key to boost your scan level. Grab it, and boom, you're a legit guardian." Heading home, Hyonu's deep in thought, ready to do whatever it takes to get the 411. Next day, Hyonu's with the guild masters, dropping the bomb that a rift's gonna show up. Everyone's jaws hit the floor, 'cause a rift means chaos is coming. At the Aries Guild HQ, the director's so mad he punches the table after hearing one of their top guys got wrecked. He's raging, saying to spare no expense for payback. The director's all, "Hire a merc stronger than the last one. I want Hyonu gone." Once Hyonu's out of the picture, The director's gonna focus on the Pato Guild, cause their members are getting picked off by some masked squad. Then, the protagonist's eyes are glued to a ring, a tiny thing worth over 2 billion won, found in labyrinths. The protagonist's curious, what's the deal with labyrinths versus dungeons? They explain labyrinths have cool artifacts like this ring, while dungeons are just monster loot and magic stones. They say this ring's got enchantments, like something straight out of a game. Using his skills, Yanu finds out the ring's a Class A item with pyrokinesis, but his low-level skills can't see much more. Feeling his skills are kinda meh, Hyunu figures once he's done with his mission, he should hit up a labyrinth. He recalls his chat with Av and asks if they know about a rift, putting everyone on high alert. Basically, a rift's when the ground just splits open and monsters flood out. People who've seen it call it the gates of hell. AV was so chill about it, the protagonist thought it was no biggie, which ticked him off. Hyonu's like, what if a rift opened in Korea? Everyone's deep in thought, knowing they might stop a low-level rift, but it'd still wreck the place. Some guilds would try to fight the rift. Aries Guild would probably send in some nobodies and claim they saved the day. The protagonist eyes his plate and tells everyone to eat up and rest for the days ahead, leaving them scratching their heads. A few days later at the airport, people notice a mini earthquake. It ramps up and the ground starts cracking. A red rift slowly opens, growing massive. Meanwhile, in a far-off castle, a hooded dude approaches a big round table. He's like, the 9th class has awakened. The guy at the table asks if it's fully awake. The hooded dude says it's not yet, but it's about to be. The timing's perfect. This demon-like guy eyes Hyunu, pumped to see what he's got. Back at the airport, people are freaking out from the quake. Some stay standing, but others drop to their knees. A news chopper overhead warns everyone to bounce because of the rift. The airport's locked down, hunters are on the scene, but monsters keep pouring out. It's turning into a full-on human versus beast showdown. Monsters are relentless. Some folks are too freaked to do anything, but one team member uses their skills to trap some monsters, buying time to take them out. As a seasoned hunter, he tells the newbie to get up and keep swinging. Even after taking down a bunch of monsters, the hunter sees things are getting worse with no backup in sight. No matter how many they take down, more keep coming. They gotta hit the right spot where the rift opened. He hears a noise, turns, and sees a giant skeleton rolling up. It's a rank A monster, making everyone lose hope. As the skeleton's about to strike, the hunter yells for everyone to bail while he tries to block the attack. Even though he's defending himself, the hit is so strong it sends him flying, crash landing into a car. Ouch, right? The skeleton's all up in his face, ready to finish him off, but then, boom, Hyunu steps in. Hands in pockets, Hyunu just kicks the skeleton's head off. Talk about a casual flex. Everyone's like, whoa, it's him! Hyonu's black outfit screams advanced player from the news. Checking out the skeleton damage, Hyunu pulls up his status window, realizing he needs to dive deeper into the airport for the key. People are all, dude, he just one-punched a skeleton. But then, bam. Monster horde attacks while they're distracted. Hyonu's like, guess I gotta help out, until backup shows up. He grabs the giant skeleton's bat, does some epic air spins, and hurls it into the monster crowd, taking out a bunch. The crowd's watching, feeling all hopeful, thinking Hyonu's got this. But then, plot twist, he bounces, leaving them to fend for themselves until help arrives. They're fighting nonstop, getting tired, but the monsters keep coming. The general's like, if we quit now, it's game over for everyone. The general gets sneak attacked, but bam, monsters down with one sword swipe. Soul Guild leader to the rescue. This dude's rocking a sword and samurai gear, ready to rumble with his guild squad. A noise from behind a car pile grabs his attention. A dead monster drops next to them. Soyeon shows up with her guild, and soon after, Seokwon rolls in too. With all the guilds here, the general's feeling saved. Soyeon's like, where's Hyunu? He should have been here first. The guy's like, he just jumped into the rift, which his friends totally saw coming cause he's impatient. Now, they're all together, launching a counterattack against the monsters. Seokwon powers up his shield, leading the charge, taking out a bunch of monsters. Sihyun's all ninja-like, slicing through monsters with quick moves. Meanwhile, Seoyeon's zapping monsters with lightning magic, blasting them with energy spheres. Hyonu's checking out the abyss. Av says he needs to hit rock bottom. He spots a monster path and finds a car nearby. Idea time. He rips off the car doors, uses them as shields, and jumps into the monster horde. A goblin tries to warn its buddies, but too late. The real beast is here, and they're freaking out. Hyunu charges like a buffalo, tossing monsters everywhere. Some tumble back into the abyss, and he knows he's close to the bottom. He ditches the car doors and leaps into the abyss, landing on a monster pile. At the rift's bottom, a red monster approaches, looking all boss level with crystals on its body. The Crimson Climber's got the key Hyunu needs. Hyonu charges in, throwing a punch, but the monster dodges and counters, sending him flying. He's shocked, no time to think, as the monster's on him. Hyonu dodges, counters with a kick and punch, knocking the monster down. The monster's babbling something, pointing at Hyonu, but he doesn't get it, and keeps attacking. The monster blocks his punch with one hand, counterattacking fast. Hyonu's struggling big time. Seeing a cut on his belly, Hyonu wonders if it's time to use that ability. Standing up, he tells the monster it's in trouble now. Not getting it, Hyonu strikes a fighting pose. Total martial artist vibes. Back in the tower days, Hyonu remembers martial arts stories where folks escaped trials after enlightenment. He knew it was movie stuff, but kept training, hoping for enlightenment to escape the tower. At first, he just copied TV martial arts, but it was pointless. His punches did zilch against monsters. Hyonu thought it was all a waste until, boom, he just yeeted a monster's head off with one punch. All those stats from clearing the tower a gazillion times turned his fake skills into the real deal. Hyonu tried to forget those cringe days. While he's prepping, the monsters all, surprise attack. Even with a punch incoming, our dude stays chill and busts out Emperor's Fury, smashing the monster's head. The punch is so epic it blasts a hole in the rocks nearby. Seeing the chaos, he's glad no one's around. And yeah, shouting move names is kinda cringe. He snags the key, updating his mission. In 3 days, he's meeting Av again, hoping she's got some answers this time. He spots a tiny drone buzzing overhead, its footage playing on a big screen at the Aries Guild. They're shook by his power display. The chief's all, is he really A rank? His assistant's like, yup, official hunter stats. The chief's like, that looked A rank? Even with no magic, no gear, just sportswear, he pulled off crazy feats. The chief asks if you got the info. He thinks brute force has limits and orders full prep to take him down. Next day, at the Hunters Association, reporters snap pics of guild leaders and our hero. They're getting props for fighting the rift. Everyone's in suits, but our guy's rocking sportswear, being filmed by the raid assistant in the forest. He's stoked with all the viewers on his live stream. Comments flood in as he gets his award. A military-looking dude checks him out, asks if he needs new clothes, but gets a cheeky reply, leaving him super annoyed. After snagging his awards, he asks if he can bounce, but before they answer, he's out of there. His friends aren't even surprised. He's all about breaking the mold. Cut to the Pado Guild Castle in China. A woman in a hot tub watches TV, seeing him fight the Crimson Monster. She checks out his moves, gets startled, hops out, and demands his name. Her assistant says he's Hyonu, fresh out of the tutorial. She orders a full background check on him. As the assistant agrees, a dude in a white kimono enters. He greets her with news about the Weon Guild's takedown. Without looking, she asks for the scoop. Turns out they snagged all the southern dungeons, but an exec got nabbed by the Aries Guild. As she dries off, she says if an exec got caught by noobs, he doesn't deserve the guild. She ties her hair, saying it's lame they can't dominate all the guilds in their turf. Watching the screen with a fiery gaze, she says it's a small price to keep their vow. Back in Korea, Seoyeon asks if he gets how famous he is now. He's a public figure but doesn't get how tough that is. Online, people post news and troll him for getting the award in casual clothes and sandals, then bolting. Hyonu doesn't care. He won't see them again, and he's living his way, leaving his friends worried. He stands up, saying he's gotta bounce. When his friends ask where, he says he's got a date, leaving everyone shook. When he leaves, everyone's worried. Even fresh out of the tower, he's made a ton of enemies. Seokwan says not to worry, he's strong, and it's not like he's out causing chaos. He heads to a quiet alley. While waiting for the invite time to end, a bright light wraps around him, and he's back in Av's room. He asks if the status scan leveled up. Av says after fighting the Crimson Demon, he went from minor to lower rank, which doesn't thrill him. Av's all, chill dude, I'm just the messenger here, explaining that the info he can access is basically the same, which makes him super annoyed. But now that he's a legit guardian, she spills the beans on the tasks he's gotta do, and once he nails them, he can find out whatever he wants. Now that Hyonu's a guardian, his gig is to stop all the climbers hitting up the tower. He's like, I was stuck in that tower for 12 years and never saw one. But Av's like, nah, not the tutorial tower, the big one with 12 layers, Earth's just one of them. Hyonu's job is to guard the 9th layer, Earth. Hyonu just wanted to know who locked him up in the tower, and now he's Earth's bodyguard. All this is way too much for a guy who just wanted some chill time. AV warns if Hyonu doesn't stop the climbers, the 9th layer's toast, which means game over for him and his buddies. Hyonu's fuming about having zero choices and just having to follow orders. Av tries to smooth things over, saying it's not exactly like that, but it just makes him more ticked off because she's got no solid reason. Av, the big boss of the new system, is being way too soft on Hyunwoo. She calls his name, switching to a serious tone, but Hyunwoo fires back even more seriously, making Av realize this tactic's a flop. She switches gears, explaining they picked Hyunwoo as a guardian for his own good. Plus, there are rewards, more climbers he takes down, more goodies he gets. Hyunwoo's all chill now, asking what scan level he needs to find out who the jerks were that made the tower and trapped him. Av repeats his scan level needs to be higher to get that info. Hyunwoo asks how many climbers he's got to take out to level up, but Av says there's no magic number since they've got levels too. To get the scoop he wants, Hyunwoo needs to take down 5 high-ranking climbers. The Crimson Demon he fought was probably a low-level climber, so now he gets how the system rolls. Back at his crib, Hyunwoo's in a library, checking out his status window. The only new thing is he'll get a ping when a climber shows up. All this wild stuff about Earth being in a tower and him needing to be the hero is super confusing. So, to keep it simple, Hyunwoo just needs to smack some monsters until he figures out who locked him in the tower. While pondering this, he gets a call from Seoyeon. She's like, "Dude, you're in deep trouble. Check the news ASAP." Hyunwoo flips on the TV, and the hosts are chatting about the murder he pulled on an Aries Guild member. He heads to Seokwan Han's place. Phones are blowing up, but he's just chilling on the couch. Seoyeon says Hyunwoo was already a big deal after leaving the tutorial tower. After soloing the rift, his fame skyrocketed. But now, with murder charges, other countries might start eyeballing him. Hyunwoo's like, "Why the panic?" Seoyeon, fuming, asks how they couldn't be worried. He looks at her, feeling weird. It's like getting nagged by a wife, but he's never been hitched or had a girlfriend. So he asks if Seoyeon's into him. She takes a deep breath but can't hold back her rage, sparking her lightning powers, and she's like, "You think I'm joking? Say one more thing like that, and you're toast." Sehyun rolls in, showing his phone. Tons of missed calls from reporters, and Hyunwoo's trending #1 on Twitter. Seokwan's like, "Not the first time this happened," and Sehyun reads some articles about them. The articles, besides talking about Hyunwoo, are trying to trash the other guilds. But Hyunwoo's unfazed, which blows his friends' minds with his total chill. Seokwan suggests just keeping the phone off, like him, and mentions the press conference kicks off in 30 minutes. The other two, clueless about the conference, ask if he's got a plan. They even think Hyunwoo's gonna throw down with all the journalists and declare war on the Aries Guild. Hyunwoo's bummed they think he'd do that, while Seokwan cracks up at the whole scene. At the Aries Guild, the director's all, "Is everything on track?" Yu's like, "Yup," and spills the tea. Public opinion's a mess, so it's gonna be tough for our hero to wiggle out of this one. The director's grinning, thinking, first strike wins, and since peace is off the table, he's ready to outsmart Hyunwoo and finish him for good. At the press conference, reporters are buzzing, asking if Hyunwoo really went after the Aries Guild. Our hero, seeing all the cameras, is like, "I have no clue how these things work, so I'm winging it." Hyunwoo picks a reporter who asks how he's feeling. He just goes, "It sucks." Another reporter's like, "Did you really off an Aries Guild member?" And Hyunwoo's all, "Yep," leaving jaws on the floor. He adds, "No clue why Aries is acting up. I just said no once." And they flipped. They roll the footage of his showdown with the assassin. Everyone's shook by the plot twist, eyes glued to the screen. The whole chat with the assassin's on blast. They ask where it was filmed, and Hyunwoo's like, "Swamp Dungeon, where I was boss hunting." People are skeptical, saying the vids could be fake, but Hyunwoo's ready, pulling out a phone, the assassin's phone. He doesn't know what's on it, it's locked, but he'll find out at the police station. He adds, as a newbie fresh from the tower, all he could do was defend himself. Hyunwoo also mentions the assassin got chomped by a mega croc in an ambush. Everyone's scribbling notes and posting online. He leaves the presser, annoyed by all the drama. Now the tables have turned. Hyunwoo, once accused, is now the hero, while Aries is called out for lying. In the office, the director's fuming that Hyunwoo flipped the script with just some audio. He thought Hyunwoo was all brawn, no brain, but he's not giving up. At a restaurant, his friends are wowed by his smarts. They didn't think he'd snag a recording and the assassin's phone. But Hyunwoo says the phone wasn't the assassin's, he just grabbed it randomly. They ask if he's fibbing about other stuff, but Hyunwoo says the recording's legit. Since Aries was sketchy, he recorded everything, not knowing it'd be gold now. They worry if the cops get the phone, he'll be busted. But Hyunwoo's like, "Aries will come knocking, and I'll tell them to scram my way." The Aries Guild's based in the USA, one of the biggest guilds worldwide, with HQs everywhere. But no place has as many dungeons as Korea. Whether it's a bad plan or a deal, Hyunwoo's unfazed. They've got more to lose, he doesn't. Later, in a parking lot, Hyunwoo tells Sehyun to head home. He needs a stroll. He hits an alley and senses he's being tailed. He knew this would happen solo, but not this fast. A guy steps up saying someone's looking for him and he should come along. Hyonu's like, nah. But the guy's all, I'll make you. Hyonu's amused by their guts while pulling veggies from the ground. The ninja's ticked by his sass and attacks with magic, but Hyonu blocks it with cabbages. Seeing their boss tossed aside, all the ninjas rush him, using every trick in the book, but none of their moves can scratch him. After the ninja swarm, Hyonu's like, done tickling me? Then, as they deserve, he leaves them all in a semi-vegetative state. The beatdown's so epic, the last ninja begs when it's his turn. Lucky for him, Hyonu needs a guide, so he agrees to chill if the ninja takes him to the boss. In the outskirts of Gwangju, in Gyeonggi-do, deep down in an underground bunker, a ninja's chatting about how the guild's hustling to build the place and mentions some shady stuff. That's when a buddy tells him to zip it, cause only a spot like this takes in hunters like them. Finally, the convo shifts to the main dude, who's been all over TV, totally fearless. They think it's lame since Hyonu got wrecked by the kids from Team 1, but just as he's bragging, boom, an explosion goes off right in front of him. Then, as the dust clears, Hyonu shows up, dragging one of their pals with him. First off, the main guy waits, and not being dumb, the ninja says it's the right spot. But the ones really scratching their heads are those two guards. Inside the bunker, an exec and his security hear noises from upstairs, and as the noise creeps closer to the elevator, they're ready for whatever's coming. Then, the elevator doors burst open with a bang, sending the snitch ninja flying and revealing the hero. Hyonu strolls in, saying it's a weird place to have, and he asks if they really have that much cash to pull this off on the down low. Then the boss whips out his sword, asking who the intruder is and how he got there. Which, no sweat, the main guy says he's the Reaper here to guide everyone to the afterlife. Switching to a creepy warehouse where they're using some sketchy confession tricks on a pink-haired girl, Hyonu asks if she'll spill the beans soon, since it looks like the guild ditched her. The dude's sure if she keeps resisting, she's toast. So he just asks for the info and weaknesses, promising a wish in return. But the girl ain't budging, and it's starting to tick him off. So, Hyonu tells his crew to keep doing their thing. One of them asks if the boss is sure, cause this time it's game over, but he doesn't care anymore, wanting at least to make her pay. Following orders, the masked guy with the knife gets ready to continue. But luckily, before he can get all evil, the gate crashes down on the executioner. And this time, it's Hyonu who's shocked, cause the one he was hunting came to him. Inside, the hero spots a girl being held captive. Then he jokes about Hyonu not being cool for bringing someone else after inviting him. Hyonu still wants to know how Hyonu's there when he sent his team to wipe him out. So, the main guy makes sure to say they took a break, just like the other assassins behind him, and left the boss to choose between talking or getting buried. The boss is still stunned, totally frozen. So, his security, one of the trained assassins, steps up to take out the threat. But since Hyonu handled a whole squad, one dude's no biggie. After taking down the security, the hero jokes about why they're so hostile to a guest, which clearly starts to drive Hyonu nuts. He'd said the hero was rank A, but the hunters here were at least rank B+, with some A+ pros. But even those picked to catch him, almost rank S, got wrecked. It was in the report he soloed the crevasse boss, even though Hyonu wanted to think it was no biggie. But now it's clear the main guy's an S rank, definitely top tier. So even though he's also an S not as high, he could easily lose. Finally, Hyonu snaps him out of it by asking if he's deaf. The hero asks if the other can decide soon whether he wants to take the beating or talk. Then, naturally, that boss gets irritated. But, not being a fool, calms down and decides to talk. Until he discovers the extent of the protagonist's power, he knows he shouldn't act rashly. However, right after sitting at the table, Hyonu asks if they can start with the payment. As Hyonu doesn't quite understand, the hero explains that he is referring to compensation for the damage caused by Aries. After all, besides sending hunters after him, they also had the audacity to spread false information, which, obviously, the protagonist would not let go without compensation. To break it down, the dude's asking for 10 billion won for damages and some beginner dungeons. No biggie, right? So the boss is all chill at first, but then he gets it and bam, slams the table, yelling, "It's extortion." Hyonu's like, "Nah, it's fair for a company this size." And the boss can't really argue with that logic. Sure, 10 billion isn't pocket change, but the boss is sweating over those dungeon rights. Cause, it means Hyonu wants to hog all the new hunters for himself. Hyonu's like, "Is there any point in arguing? I offered cash before, and you said no." But if it's prestige he's after, the boss is like, join Aries, and you'll get mad support. So, instead of beefing with a big guild, he could have them as buddies. But talks go south cause Hyonu's ticked about other stuff getting mixed into his deal. Plus, there's this girl tied up next to him, and she's totally clueless about what's going on. Finally, Hyonu's all, I got this, and if you mess with me again, you'll regret it. Hyukseonu's feeling super dissed, but Hyonu circles back to the main point. And, giving the choice to accept the terms or go all out, the boss's choice is clear, even if he hates it. Later that night, when the hero rolls home, Si-yeon's like, whoa dude, especially cause he's got this unconscious girl with him, and she's a total mystery. In some spooky place, way different from the usual, a young dude's wandering through a wrecked castle, until he finds this tower entrance, and it's go time for the 9th layer challenge. Back in the real world, the deal wraps up with 4 dungeons, 11 billion, and the girl he brought along. There's a strong hunter, but the hero's like, I can handle whatever comes. Finally, Si-yeon's curious why he brought the girl, and it's said she's his safety net. And also, cause he's worried about some personal stuff he hasn't spilled yet. Finally, Si-yeon bounces to snag some loot, cause dungeon bosses are gonna respawn. Later, the hero checks out the tattoo on the unconscious girl, and no matter how much he stares, it looks a lot like the mask he was obsessed with, reminding him of the Void's first rule. Finally, opening the status window, the girl's name pops up as Hong Lin, and her stats are solid. Still, she's not super special, and since he can't see everything, he's itching for answers when she wakes up. Before anything else, out of nowhere, an urgent message drops about a new climber on the 9th layer, and the system's like, hey, wanna be a guardian when the timer hits 0? Obviously he's clueless, and to make it worse, there's only 5 seconds left. So, before he can even think, he's yanked by the girl who instantly calls his name, and shouts that someone is zooming in fast. Hyonu's like, who's this person? And it's said to be the next climber. About who they are and when they'll show up, the girl just pulls up that window again. But now she gets a playful flick on the head from the hero, realizing if not for the alert, he'd be in the dark. Av tries to explain again that it's not her fault cause his authority's low, but if she didn't know who was coming, why call him? But the girl's like, nah, it's not that simple. I need a favor. Context is, this climber's tougher than the last, and the guardian's gotta gear up. About what he needs to do, the girl suggests he awaken his mana for some backup. Hyonu's getting hyped about facing a high-level opponent, but Av's like, if that's the case, the world's toast. Finally, she insists the hero won't win without magic, but even when asked, she's clueless about a crevasse happening. Av's in the dark on details, but a climber's all about their skills and achievements. Recapping, Hyonu gets there's an intermediate climber coming, and he's in hot water without intel. Then, Av shields her head, yelling for him to quit picking on her. After all, in her view, treating a cute girl poorly is just bad manners. But sadly, the hero spills that his parents died in a car crash when he was just a kid, which makes the girl say sorry for being thoughtless when she should have been dropping some wisdom bombs. But hey, the heroes chill with it, and since there's no beef, Av thinks Hyonu might have a soft side. In the Aries Guild skyscraper in Gwangjin-gu, someone yells, yo, what's up? She hollers that this magic trick's gotta be a scam cause she can't feel the mana vibes. Turns out it's Hyonu venting cause he could be doing his own thing. Si-yeon though is skeptical cause she's never heard of a hunter winning without a mage's backup. That's why, in her book, a mage like her is key to channeling mana. Suddenly, Si-yeon pops up asking what's the deal, and since it's day 4, it seemed like he was there to roast the hero. But nah, he just came to drop a message from the hunter's crew. The hero just started a guild, shocking everyone. Now with some dungeons in the bag, he just needs to chase other stuff. The guild's called Guardian, and the person he brought is still out cold. Hyonu even jokes if she's turned into a veggie, but luckily not, so it's just a waiting game. But since she's been stuck like this for days without feeling mana, she's clueless if it's working. Si-yeon suggests finding someone who can tap into the mana source, like Nakagawa Yasumi. And since the hero's lost, it's explained she's the boss of the Izanami Guild in Japan. She's got this wild skill called Blood Flow, which can control blood and boost stats. That's why the hero's hyped, but going to Japan just to meet her sounds like a drag. And more annoying than that would be if the hero accidentally messed up the magic circle, which, oops for Si-yeon, is exactly what happened, so Hyonu had to yell for her to chill and promise to fix it. Later, outside the intermediate lab in Suganami, Tokyo, Japan, the Izanami Guild's boss, Nakagawa Yasumi, is called to help with shouts. Cause right in front of her a weird dimensional cut's creeping closer. She yells, telling her squad to dodge, but they're too slow for the attack. Sadly, she's the only one who dodges, surviving, but clearly shook by the chaos. Anyway, no time for tears cause the culprit's creeping closer with a blade. Seeing this, Nakagawa nervously asks who the heck she is. Then, despite dodging his blade by luck, the young dude says he'll spill the beans. Finally, he wonders which of his many nicknames to use. Some call him a climber, others a destroyer or god of the lightning sky. But his real name's Cheonma, and that's the last thing Nakagawa hears. Meanwhile, back in Korea, another urgent message hits the hero, this time about the climber's Japan arrival. So he brushes off Seoyeon's gloom and asks for a lift. On the way, the news gives a taste of the madness going down. And since he hasn't nailed magic yet, Hyonu's a bit stressed. During the ride, Seoyeon can't help but ask why the hero's Japan-bound. So, as usual, he makes up an excuse, but there's still the passport issue. And maybe, in the rush to beat the climber, Hyonu forgot he doesn't have one. In the Hunters Association's Japan branch conference room, a bigwig asks how Nakagawa's still around, given she was declared dead, so she says she revived thanks to an artifact. Anyway, the question is if Cheonma's really that OP. With an S-rank's death announced, other hunters are hesitant to step up. Since even Nakagawa couldn't beat him, the others would likely fail too. So they need help, and with the local crew tied up, all they can do is watch the chaos grow. That is, until suddenly, on the livestream, an unexpected face shows up. Our hero's already in the thick of it, despite the passport drama. Then, facing Cheonma, he tries to open the status window, but it's a no-go on climbers. Hyonu jokes about the enemy looking like an oriental drama star. But without any chill, he asks who the hero is and attacks before hearing. Hyonu's on high alert, cause when the hit lands, the wind's like a wrecking ball, smashing buildings. Then, using his speed boost, Hyonu sneaks up behind the dude, landing a punch right on his guard. Grinning, Hyonu asks for the guy's name again, and since he dodged the blade, the dude finally spills it. Cheonma keeps up the pressure with another long-range move that barely misses our hero. Hyonu clocks that the dude's fast, but not so fast he can't keep up. At first his moves look basic, but they're actually a combo of slashes all at once. So, it's clear to Hyonu he needs to stop that sword swing, cause he's got the edge up close. Thinking fast, our hero moves in, landing a punch right in the guy's gut, and he doesn't waste a second chasing him down to stop any time gaps. But Cheonma, even bleeding, starts having a blast. And then, bam, he unleashes an electric aura that's untouchable. Strolling over, Cheonma asks who Hyonu is, cause compared to the lower floors, he's the strongest. Back in the conference room, Seoyeon's watching everything, asking if the crevasse showed up at 2. Nakagawa nods, feeling bad for letting the hero go. When Hyonu got off the plane, he just bolted, so Seoyeon's wondering why he was so eager. But not being dumb, he figures Hyonu already knew about the event. Back to our hero's fight, he's dodging magic attacks left and right. Almost getting hit every time, he asks what kind of skill this is. Cheonma's offended, saying it's not just a skill, but warns he'll soon be toast from his celestial sword. Not before explaining he doesn't use those human tricks called skills. Seeing the sitch, Hyonu knows he needs to dodge. But he's stumped on how, cause moving away gives the dude a long-range edge. So he does the opposite. Grabs the guy's kimono and delivers a brutal headbutt. While Cheonma's reeling from the pain, the hero switches it up, pulling off a martial arts move called Absolute King. Hyonu's hoping for a win, but Cheonma's back at 100% and ready to strike back. Before anything else, he admits the hero's interesting and strong. So, he gives props for being the first worthy of a technique he's been itching to use, daring the hero to defend. Hyonu's blown away by the power, needing to sprint to close the gap. But that's why Cheonma's the lightning god, so in a flash, the celestial sword in lightning of condemnation mode hits the ground. In the conference room, Seoyeon's freaked out by this monster's insane power. Nothing's left in the attack zone, but the hero's sharp, grabbing the enemy as he swung his sword. That lightning's still buzzing, running through his whole body. Even though it seems like the end, it's the spark needed to unlock his magic. The hero's still trying to wrap his head around what's happening as he backs off. Cheonma's lost his patience, wanting to see if the hero's luck holds up for round 2. Hyonu admits the guy's strong, cause this technique's his own creation. Cheonma's a character from some novels, and his story's about reaching the magical peak and mastering mana. Finally, the opponent asks if the hero's gonna keep fighting. But the hero's like, "This won't scare me," which sounds cocky to the swordsman. Hyonu knows he can't win by force alone, but wonders if a few more lightning strikes could change the game. When he was stuck in the tower, he practiced tons of martial arts, but Cheonma Shingang was out of reach. Those who nailed it were top tier, but Hyonu had zero experience. The techniques he tried from novels were just knockoffs, but all that frustration paid off now. Cause in just 10 seconds, Cheonma's been a better teacher than anyone else. Without fully getting it, the martial artist launches another attack, but now he's the one shocked. 'Cause everything's nullified and copied by the hero perfectly, only for the hero to then flex all his new skills on the opponent, showing off everything he just learned. First, Yonu gathered all his magical power into one epic point and then, boom, made it explode. What was brewing behind him, and what the martial artist was already sweating about, was just his own technique. Then, from all the cool attack moves, the hero picked the divine kick of extreme destruction, which, caused massive chaos, even smacking a transmission drone out of the sky. And so after just this one epic attack, a message popped up, giving props to the Guardian for beating the climber Qianma. A few minutes after the climber got wrecked at Pado Castle, a girl chilling on her throne watches the hero's fight recap on a big screen. This was Mir Young, and what blew her mind wasn't the win, but that it was her master out there. Flashback to the tutorial tower days, the girl was struggling big time against some nasty monsters. She was about to throw in the towel, totally out of hope and energy. But then, in her darkest hour, her master swooped in, taking down all those baddies. The one who schooled her in martial arts and the path of awesomeness, that was her master Kim Hyonu. Finally, when asking about the last area, she hears there's something to the east in the Weiyan Guild's dungeon. If they snagged it, all the dungeons in China would be Pado Guild's turf. So, the girl told her sidekick he had a month and warned she'd tag along. Mir Young promised her master she'd make a place worthy of him for when he hit this world. So she had to hustle, 'cause she'd soon get to see her legendary teacher. At Japan's international airport, as the hero rolls in, everyone's yelling to clear the path. Loads of people want to know what move he pulled against the climber, thinking he couldn't even use mana. Plus, they were curious how Hyonu knew a crevasse would pop up in Japan and acted so fast. Even Si-hyun, who was keeping quiet, was all ears. But the hero just tossed the question-answering job to the boy, and as he started to get what was going on with all the reporters, the hero had already bolted. Back at his crib, Yonu finally gets some chill time without any interruptions, especially since he trusts Si-hyun to handle the chaos. Surprisingly, that mystery girl is up and about, and the first thing she does is bow and give a heartfelt thanks to the hero for saving her life. The girl's name was Hong Lin, and she mentioned stuff like being a Pado Guild officer kidnapped by Aries while tackling one of their dungeons. But the real head-scratcher was other things, like the tattoo on her shoulder. Hong Lin said it was the guild's official symbol, 'cause her master said it meant only the sky was above them. Hyonu, on the other hand, was like, what does that even mean? But she had already spilled the tea. For Mir Young, it was a way to honor the one who was above everyone except the sky and who should rightfully rule. However, the hero yelled for her to zip it, which freaked the girl out. Naturally, she asked if she messed up, but even though he didn't say it, Hyunu was ticked, 'cause this was another one of his blunders. He really couldn't figure out how he let all the goofy stuff he did in the tower get broadcasted by someone. Back then, he thought if he mastered martial arts, he could break free from the tower, and that's when he caught the 7th grade syndrome, mimicking all the lines and poses from web novels and anime he'd watched. So it was a bummer that even after shaking it off, someone was spreading his cringe past. And the only person he could think of doing that was the one who treated him as a master, who by chance had a power link with the girl he saved by accident. So, the best plan Hyonu came up with was to send Hong Lin back with a note telling the guild boss to never come after him. A few days after sending the girl back to China on the Korean show Meeting Hunters, the host Hae Young Lee wishes everyone a good day and introduces the new sensation of the moment, the hunter Kim Hyonu. Then, all his buddies watching from home are totally shook because they had no clue about this. Si-hyun, though, had a hint, because the hero mentioned he had an announcement to make. And just as he said, Hyonu wasn't about to waste time sticking to the show's schedule. He rolls up, promising just one thing, and drops the bomb that he's not only started a guild, but is on the hunt for new members. Turns out, going on TV to recruit members had resumes piling up at his doorstep. Honestly, Hyonu didn't see it going down like this, and to make things worse, Si-hyun bailed on helping him out. So they struck a deal to get into the first dungeons every now and then. His squad, the clan leaders, got the hero's back. Someone asks why he's even starting a guild if it's such a pain. The hero just shrugs and says he's in it for the cash. He's already raked in some dough from his adventures, but now with his own dungeons, he's ready to cash in even more. His buddies joke that his money obsession might be from a rough childhood. Later, a hunter's resume gets trashed right in front of him, leaving the dude stunned. He's the top C-rank hunter, so he asks if the hero even checked it out, but he should have zipped it because the hero snaps and kicks him out. Since this hunter was famous for smashing dungeons and still got rejected, everyone's buzzing about what it takes to get in. Turns out, it wasn't his D-level stats, but his selfish vibe that got him booted. The hero realizes this new skill he's got is pretty handy. A while back, Av gave him props for taking down Chianma and called him over to boost his skills instead of just leveling up info. Av wanted to add a personality check to the status skill, and Hyunu was all, what's the point, back then. But now, he sees it's gold for resume interviews. With a new candidate in front of him, the hero uses his status power and finds out she's got an opportunistic streak. It's kinda iffy, so he's on the fence about her, but the other two candidates, one's all about self-sacrifice and the other's super friendly, so Hyonu's hyped and decides to give the girl a shot, approving her with the good vibe crew. That wraps up the day, and he's feeling super lazy. Later, someone asks what kind of interview wraps up in just an hour and a half. The hero says it's plenty to pick folks who won't swipe his stuff the first chance they get. Sion gets it's about checking attributes, but Hyunu wonders why no S rank showed up. Sion explains those folks are rare, only 5,000 worldwide. Among them, he's ranked 163, while his crew's at 175 and 161. Sion's worried the hero doesn't know the top 200 are famous and always gunning for each other's spots. The hero's shocked his pals are so high up, and not long ago, he saw a poster of S-rank hunters with names crossed out. Sion tells him those hunters are dead. They're supposed to be super strong, but many died chasing rare artifacts. Hunters can only boost their stats so much. If they leave the tower with C strength, they can't hit level A-. To break through, they need an S+ grade item from the labyrinth's depths. The hero asks if the labyrinth's a hunter graveyard. Sihyun says many try to snag it through theft, leading to hunter assassins who get booted from the rankings, just like the hero saw with the Aries Guild's goons. Hyunu starts to see some shady folks in Power Love playing dirty. One of the first dungeons the Aries Guild gave him was the desolate swamp, where he's chilling now. The hero lets his buddy bounce while he gears up to smack down the regenerating boss. If he's gonna make bank, it's time to start milking resources. He dives into the control room, bumping into the last people he wanted to see. They're shocked, but he tells them to chill. They remember the beatdown they got last time. Finally, Hyunu asks how to get into the dungeon, and the guy yells the paperwork's not done yet. Alright, buckle up, cause this is gonna be a wild ride. So, our hero's cruising along, all chill, when suddenly, bam, he bumps into an old buddy. This dude's grinning like he just won the lottery, even though things are kinda messy. Hyonu's not having it though. He's all, yo, are you here cause Aries sent you again? And the guy's like, yeah, but I'm out of that guild life now. Then he drops some serious tea about these hunters called Pandemonium. If you know about these guys, it's like hearing the ice cream truck when you're broke. They're top-tier mercenaries, all S-rank legends. They're like the Avengers, but, with more murder. There's Jack Gunslinger, Asuo Bloodwind, Master Aslan, and Anya Circular. If they're after you, well, good luck, buddy. Anya's all, ever heard of me, the class MVP? But our hero's like, nah, sorry, not ringing any bells, which makes her madder than a cat in a bath. She brags about taking down top hunters thanks to her debuff magic. Then she traps our hero with magic ropes. Hyonu's curious if she can draw magic circles too, but she tells him to zip it. Big mistake, cause he was just deciding if he should wipe them out. Anya's suddenly sweating bullets. Everyone charges at him, but it's like watching a toddler try to tackle a pro wrestler. Meanwhile, in Xiam, China, in the Weiyan Guild's secret lair, Li of Cheon, aka Demon Asura, is down for the count. Miryong's not impressed though. She's like, really? That's it? Li's all, you're cocky but our leaders are coming. Miryong just laughs, and when Li tries a last-ditch attack, she dodges like a ninja. She's got this killer move, Extreme Force of the Sovereign, and with just a punch, she sends Li and his crew flying like paper planes. Back in the day, Honglin told her the master didn't want her around, but she's convinced he's just waiting for her to keep her promise. So she's on a mission to make a place worthy for him, and she's not wasting any time. Over in Gwangjin-gu at the Aries Guild, Seoyeon's jaw drops. The heroes brought someone to fix a magic circle, and it's none other than Anya. Seoyeon's like, isn't she a criminal? But Hyunu spills the beans about another Aries conspiracy. The hero's like, yeah, I took down Pandemonium, no biggie. Seoyeon's skeptical, but he's all, my stats are way better than they look. Even if he asked Av, she'd probably say her power level's too low. Hyunu tells his friend not to sweat it about Anya. She's all about survival, and before she bit the dust, she was begging to help with spells and crafting. Now, she's fixing the circle without any fancy gear. Since Anya's not needed anymore, Hyunu gifts her staff to his friend. Then he's off to new adventures, asking Seoyeon to keep tabs on Anya. Later, our hero's leaving a convenience store with a bag full of mystery goodies. He's staring down a big-shot building, ready to say thanks for the loot. Without a care in the world, he strolls through the entrance until the secretary spots him. Everyone freaks out, cause they've got a rocky past with this hero dude. Security guards swarm in, saying it's a no-go zone unless you're in the Aries Guild. Meanwhile, our hero just wants a chat with the guild leader, bearing a dialogue staff as a gift. And when obstacles pop up, he whacks them with a toy hammer. Still freaks everyone out, cause they're getting owned by a toy. Hyonu calls out the gutsy move of putting rocks in his way, hinting they might get a one-way ticket to heaven. Meanwhile, in the boss's office, a manager spills the tea about the hero and his toy hammer, then freaks out. Hyunu finally gets it. This hero's on a whole other level. If word gets out about this epic fail, his rep's toast. Hyunu can't call for backup, cause they'd think he's a total noob. He's brainstorming a fix, but then the hero busts in, asking how the boss is doing. Hyunu's legit scared, no time to dodge the hero's toy hammer smackdown. As he's sent flying, the hero remembers the chat about payback, especially since that crew he can't even recall threatened him. Even if the hero can't nail the name, he knows it's about the Pandemonium plan, so he asks if the hero wants more payback, and the hero demands 20 billion this time. With no other option, Hyunu agrees, but before anything, Hyunu corners him with the hammer and warns he doesn't care how many people they send after him. He also suggests the boss should call the hospital if he wants his crew in one piece. That's how the hero bounces. But clearly, the dude doesn't learn his lesson. Getting owned like that just makes him angrier. And if Pandemonium can't handle it, he figures he needs something next level. But without backup from the Aries office, his only move is to head to China for the Dragon Emperor, ranked 5th worldwide. On the 8th layer of the tutorial tower, a village is on fire and a young dude's in his final moments. In front of him, a girl on a monster says the Guardian lost the bet. So as promised, she says she'll take the last city. The young dude yells he can still fight, but she just laughs. Finally, she hops off the monster, taking the first step. The Guardian charges with his axe, and she takes the second step. But then, the third step hits, unleashing a power that turns everything to dust. The fourth step cranks up the power, and with the fifth step, everything's reduced to raw energy. For a few seconds, it flows. And when it stops, nothing's left. On the fifth step, it's game over. Her move's called Extermination in 10 steps. Now, she's ready to call her little monsters for more fun on the next layer. Back in the real world, the news about the hero's chaos at Aries finally drops. CCTV caught him entering, but no one's sure why there's no statement. But with dungeon rights shifting, it's clear Hyunu messed up. Sion asks if the hero's caught up on the latest news. If Aries reports him, it's detention time, but the hero thinks he was just defending himself. Plus, he used a toy, so he figures he's in the clear. But then, another news flash hits, this time about cash, so he jumps up. It's about beginner classes in Japan. And since they're offering 50 million for the classes, Hyunu says, even though it's a snooze, he's hyped. An urgent message pops up about a new climber on the 9th layer. The system warns the Guardian will be summoned when the hour's up. Hyonu's not too thrilled about this new hassle, especially since he's in the middle of his side gig teaching newbies. Acting all weird, the hero apologizes and bounces to show them how to handle a boss with clean hands. But just then, he can't continue because he gets teleported. With no options left, Hyonu's all, why's another climber here so soon? My power-up hasn't even kicked in yet. Av's like, oops, my bad, but spills the tea that she's leveled up a bit. And that's why she's got the 411 on the new climber, giving him a heads up. Especially since this time, she's rolling in with a whole squad. Hyonu's all, is it gonna be like that first monster in the crevasse? But Av's like, nah, it's a whole different ballgame. She breaks it down saying low-level climbers like Arkir only summon monsters the system whips up to help them out. Plus, those monsters are low-key weak and not even real squad material. This time, it's a mid-level climber, but they're basically the boss of their level. And when Hyonu's all, stronger than Cheonma, the girl nods. Yep, for real. So, they both figure if they beat this challenge, their power levels are gonna skyrocket. Back in the real world, later on, at the Aries Guild, Hyonu bursts in, all, how's that magic circle coming along? Seoyeon's like, dude, stop kicking the door already. Anyway, Hyonu's checking if she's on her A-game. Anya's like, almost done fixing it, and trust me, it's gonna be lit. So, Hyonu's got another topic to chat about. Earlier, the girl mentioned her special move was teleportation and drawing circles. Seoyeon's all, wait, what? You could have just poofed out of here? Then Anya's like, well, I need a magic circle to make it work. Anyway, she promises she wasn't planning any escape, but Hyonu zones out when the system's all, climbers hit the 9th layer. So, when asked where he's teleporting, he points to Germany. In Leipzig, Eastern Germany, the challenger's already causing chaos. With the military, Guildmaster Shuvazer's all, stop or else. But the demon girl's just laughing, thinking he's full of himself, which makes Shuvazer double down, bragging about his numbers. At the German Hunters Association, the council's convinced their S ranks are unbeatable, at least on paper. Anyway, the girl gets where the guy's confidence is coming from, so she's like, "Cool, you're fighting with your crew, but heads up, so am I." Introducing herself, the climbers all, "I'm the stuff of nightmares, master of darkness, the queen of spooky leading the 100 yokai parade, and chaos goddess." One of her pals, a giant centipede, pops up. Its teeth are dragon sharp, and it dives back underground, wrecking stuff. Back to Hyonu, he's stressing cause the flight's over 11 hours, so he's like, "Hurry up with that magic circle." On the phone, Seoyeon's reading the news, yelling about a crevasse in Germany. But Hyonu's already in the loop, and they've called for his help. Something he already knew from the news. Seoyeon's all, "You gonna stop the crevasse like last time?" But then she's like, "Wait, why's Hyonu being so nice without getting anything?" Anyway, one news piece grabs his attention. It's an offer. The Chaos Goddess, maybe bored, suggests a bet instead of wrecking everything. And the rules are simple. She'll chill in the city for 24 hours, giving someone a shot to beat her and make her leave. In this deal, solo or squad, if they can't stop her, she'll keep the destruction tour going. Hearing this, at the German Hunters Association, Officer Christian Bergel's stressing. A young guy reports 20,000 casualties so far, with more damage piling up. And sadly, the hunters sent in, both 32 S-class and 68 A-class, are gone. But the association still can't reach the top 5 international rankers. Anyway, the casualty reporting guy's phone rings, so he bounces. Already swamped, he answers, not in the best mood. The moment he heard it was about reinforcements from the same hunter who took down Cheolma in Japan, everything felt way lighter. Finally, after Anya's 5-hour guarantee, the teleportation magic circle was done, and boom, Hyonu was in Germany. He was all about praising this magic's convenience, but no. One of those weird monsters spots him, but Hyonu's quicker, stopping it cold with a flying kick. Hyonu's more hyped than you'd think, climbs up the monster's body, and runs to its head. He lands a full punch, saying they started it by intimidating him first. With the main monster down, Hyonu asks where the short girl is, pressing her hard. Military drones broadcast the chaos, and everyone searches for Hyonu until he pops up in the middle of it all. The goddess of chaos asks if he's the first challenger. He wonders why she's so formal when she seems like just a kid, and it makes things awkward. Hyonu calls her out for making the offer after all this chaos. But the idea of being charged for city damage makes her mad. And more than that, he says it's none of her business if he's arrogant or clueless. Normally she tries to enjoy time with the first challenger, but she's tired of the Guardian's disrespect. She says it'll soon be clear if he's really powerful. A dragon lasted 5 steps, and the self-proclaimed strongest only 7. Now it's Hyonu's turn to test his luck. With a sly grin, she takes her first step, then the second. Her city starts shaking with some weird energy stirring things up. Hyonu feels the pressure, realizing it's mana energy wrecking everything. On the 3rd step, he gets that they're the problem and he needs to stop them. But the 4th step happens, then the 5th, causing even more chaos. Hyonu uses his magic, gearing up for his most powerful attack. He charges forward, and bam, both the 6th and 7th steps happen, cranking up the pressure. Hyonu can't control the mana as the goddess's effects on him grow and squeeze it. It feels like his body is being torn apart. Seeing him keep going makes the goddess of chaos applaud his strength, but she keeps going, finishing the 8th step, then the 9th. Meanwhile, he strikes with the Heel of the Sovereign of Extreme Destruction technique, but he can't land it well, almost stopping the 9th step. Still, it doesn't stop her from reaching the power of the 10th step, bringing the full destructive release of the 10-step extermination technique. While getting hit, he feels the mana inside him about to explode, like it's tearing him apart. But that massive pressure ends, and the girl admits the hero's impressive. He was the only one to make her use the 10-step extermination and still stand. That's why she congratulates him again. Since he endured, the goddess of chaos explains why the city wasn't totally wrecked. AV had warned this climber would be stronger, but the hero didn't expect this much. Finally, she asks what he'll do because, despite surviving, his power seems shaky. She asks if he'll beg for his life or keep his dignity till the end. But he reminds her she forgot an option. The option of not losing, but getting up to finish her off. She didn't see that coming, and bursts into genuine laughter. But it doesn't last, as she decides to face him with all her might. All the mana she can muster as the leader of the 100 demons is unleashed. She tells him to try and withstand her power. Hyonu quickly notices the energy around him getting thicker, and he feels the pain creeping back into his body. Not everything was a total disaster though, because suddenly, a window popped up saying that since he interrupted the mana expansion, his resistance level got a boost. The hero's resistance was already at level S, which is why he tanked all that damage like a boss. So, with his resistance leveling up, Hyonu figured he could handle the next attack. Plus, some external mana swooped in, channeling just like it did against Chioma. Right now, the hero knows he needs to come up with something epic, just like before. Back in the tower, he had a squad of masters from all the pop culture he binged. For others, they might not be, but for him, they were legends, and one of the moves was the Destroyer, used by Asura to stop the demon god of myths. Remembering this, the hero unleashes his power and starts crafting mana into magical limbs. Seeing this, the goddess is all confused, never having seen anything like it before. Even so, the danger vibes make her want to wrap this up fast. She takes a step, but surprise, it doesn't hit the ground, as the hero's summoned limb blocked it. Hyonu, chilling far away, managed to extend his reach with that move and stop the girl from moving. On her second step, the same move blocked her again. The goddess is fuming and kicks it away, yelling at the hero for daring to touch her. In her mind, she remembers she still has 8 steps left. It's a stacking technique and doesn't weaken by missing a step, so she just needs to stack them up. That is, if the hero wasn't already on top of it. Besides using those arms, the spike on his head starts creating a magical field and, before the third step, launches a projectile. Little by little, the girl gets frustrated that her power isn't stacking up. But more than that, she's annoyed by a mere mortal trying to mess with her. In a slick move, this time it's Hyonu who steps, and she manages to make her own step count as the 4th, which once again creates a ray of destruction around the hero. The goddess of chaos screams, saying this is the real deal behind her technique, and she yells that he won't be able to handle it till the end. So, the 5th step was about to happen, but the hero stopped it with his foot right on top of hers, stopping in front of her and leaving her totally powerless to use the 10-step destruction. Hyonu even takes a moment to mock her power, which seems way smaller now. Unable to stack destructive energy, the girl freaks out, and, unlike her, after prepping a new move, the hero says it's his turn to strike. Besides his arm, 4 others made of mana help create a magical field. Magic spheres shaped like blooming flowers start popping up. And so, using Asura's martial art, the hero delivers the ultimate attack called Nullifying Fist, heading straight for the defenseless goddess of chaos, who in the end gets hit and just can't believe she got wrecked so easily. A system notification pops up, congratulating the hero on his new win and inviting him without delay. Upon arriving there, Av celebrates with the hero for stopping the mysterious goddess of chaos. Thanks to the battle results, it's announced that his authority went from low level to medium low. Av called him to spill the tea about the authority and info he'd get thanks to his promotion. Hyonu, on the other hand, found it weird to be called so fast, so Av tried to explain, saying she was hyped. In the end, the hero doesn't complain because he thinks it's dope to learn things sooner. But the first thing he wants to talk about is the room, which is noticeably bigger. Av explains that every time the Guardian beats a climber and his authority levels up, the space also gets an upgrade. She mentions that a bunch of stuff changed after he got the medium-low authority. First up, the power to decorate the system area. Handing over a control, Av asks him to imagine the room he wants, then press the button. Then, the first change happens, impressing the girl as it's the first floor of the tutorial tower. Next, the hero picks a cozier vibe, and the girl is impressed again. Av explains she only knows how to use the buttons but can't actually use them or know these places. After all, since she was created, she's always been in this tiny space. Hyonu's all like, "Wait, you sleep here too?" And Av's just chillin', saying she uses the table for that. Hyonu's thinking she's got a thing for playing the victim card. So, status and notification skills got a glow up, and there's this new skill called Entry that lets him pop in whenever he wants. Pretty neat, right? Hyonu's stoked he can just drop in and ask stuff whenever. But with his new boss-level authority, he checks his status window to see if anything's off. Even though his stats got a boost after beating the climber, Hyonu's like, why am I stronger than what's showing? Luckily, the girl can spill some tea now, and Hyonu's all smiles. Turns out, the tower's creator slapped a lock on challengers to keep them from going OP. But it's a system thing, she says. Hyonu's like, can you be a bit more specific? And she's like, even with the lock, the Guardian's body keeps leveling up. Hyonu's surprised it's that simple, but bummer, she can't say how off the info is. And about being stuck in the tower, Av's got nothing. Hyonu's fuming, and even if it could end the world, he's like, bring on a high-level climber already. Over at the Aries Guild in Shanghai, China, rank 17 Hyunmu Hyunchun gets totally owned by Miryong. She thought it'd be fun facing a top dog from Weian, but she just yeets him to the ground and calls it pathetic. Miryong's like, Cheon Young, you got what I asked for? And he's like, yup. The high-def vid of the protagonist's crevasse is ready to roll. Miryong's hyped to see him flexing that Asura martial art. She's over the moon seeing her master smash expectations. Then she asks the dude to update her on the guild's status, including their latest turf grab. Only 8% of China isn't theirs yet, so they're basically running the show. Miryang's thinking it's finally time to keep her promise. Years back, before she bounced, Miryang shouted out to her master. When she left the tower, she vowed to make a place worthy of him. She promised a spot fit for a legend, and maybe Hyonu flashed a charming grin in thanks. Everything led Miryang to this moment, ready for her big reunion. Back in Hyonu's city, he's checking out some reward doc from Germany, but it looks more like an invite to move there. Si-Yun snatches the paper to peek at the deets. Besides cash and goddess loot, there's total tax freedom and a bunch of goodies, way better than what Japan offered. About the Cheonma sword from the Asians, Si-Yun's keeping it. Seo-Yun's whining, so Hyonu reminds her about the souped-up magic circle. Not everyone scored something, though. Putting the loot aside, the girl's like, why's the hero globetrotting with these epic quests? All his buds are curious too. But Hyonu's like, do I need a reason? I just dig smacking down wannabe tough guys. With his rep, no one's doubting that. After grub, Hyonu's deep in thought near the tutorial tower. The tower popped up on a normal day with monsters, dragging people in, just like him. He was stuck there for 12 years, climbing from floor 1 to 100, over and over. While his tower pals left, he hit the first floor thousands of times. Even though he's out now, Hyonu's itching to know why. With 3 crevasses, his authority's still meh, but hey, it's something. His friends see he's lost in thought and call him home. He laughs off looking worried, saying he's not, but maybe, just maybe, he's pumped. 10 days after the Chaos Goddess got wrecked, Hae-Young's back, bringing the legendary hunter Kim Hyonu. Hae-Young kicks off by recalling Hyonu's last epic conference where he dropped some wild truths. But Hyonu's all, I was just being real, and the presenter finds it hilarious. Alright, so Hae-Young's got her viewers glued to the big screen, right? She was super curious about how this kid's special skills worked, but he was all, nah, just got my martial arts from the tower, that's it. This video totally brought martial arts back into the spotlight, like a ninja comeback. So Hae-Young thought it'd be epic to bring in some masters for advice, and the hero was down with it too. These old dudes showed up to hype their Blue Dragon sword mastery style. But our hero wasn't buying it, he knew they were just trying to cash in. So he slammed the ground and was like, let me clear this up for y'all. In a flash, Hyonu snatched a master's sword and was like, I'm the real deal, not the arts. He was proving it right there, copying the master's moves without breaking a sweat. The old guy was shook, and the hero was like, watch and learn how it's done. Hyonu remembered reading stories with similar vibes. He nailed the protagonist's moves and busted out Celestial Dragon's Radiance. The power was so wild, the ceiling started crumbling on the show set. Wrapping it up, the hero was like, I'm the boss here, not these wannabes. As he left, someone from the crew called out to him. Surprise, it was Anya, now working a regular office gig. The hero joked it must be an okay job and she nervously agreed. He reminded her she was still around because she was useful. He warned he'd treat her like any other hunter, and she was cool with it. The hero assured her everything's chill as long as she doesn't double-cross him. And if Anya ever thought of running, her devilish look said it all. But for now, he left, offering help if she needed it. Anya had been in the admin role for 10 days. No complaints. The work was chill, the pay was decent, but it felt weird living like this. Then a fax came in, and boom, transfer papers for Aries were ready. Meanwhile, at Incheon Airport, someone yelled for the president to hold up. A young dude asked if he really planned to hit up the Pado Guild. Even though it was risky, Hyuk-Seonu was more ticked off than ever. The boss told the guy to zip it, reminding him they were in deep trouble. Hyuk-Seonu lost his monopoly and his power, ending up like those he took down. The boss made it clear there was no backing out now. Hyuk-Seonu was ready to go all in, no matter what. The boss didn't care about more dungeons, just wanted Pado to take Hyonu down. In New York, near a fancy table, a guy was like, did I hear that right? Sitting there was Martin Brand, the Aries Guild founder. A young guy said the South Korean branch transferred some dungeon rights. Martin was like, the president messed up, but everyone does. But he said you can't call it a mistake until it's fixed. So Martin told the guy never to report a problem without a solution. Without fixing it, it's a fail, and Hyuk-Seonu's the real problem. Failures aren't welcome in Aries. While sorting out the boss's mess, Martin said they'd reclaim the dungeon rights. Finally in China, Hyuk-Seonu was trying to figure out why he got a personal invite. The boss was freaking out, thinking asking Pado, Aries' enemy, was a bad move. Then footsteps got him frozen in fear. Luckily, an employee greeted him with news that his entry was approved. The young guy was led to the entrance by masked folks, and fear hit again at the gate. So, this is where the big boss, the Dominator and Dragon Emperor, hangs out. Or so he thought, until a cute little girl popped up to say hi. As he tries to be polite, Hyuk Seonu's brain is doing cartwheels, especially with all those masked peeps giving him the side-eye. Miryong cuts to the chase, asking who the young dude wants them to take out. And Hyuk Seonu's gut is screaming, don't say it. But he's come this far, so he spills that it's the hunter who beat the Chaos Goddess in Germany. If he pulls it off, he'll hand over 20% of the Aries branch dungeons in Korea, plus a cool 80 trillion won. The girl gets it, but her vibe screams angry as she stands up. Especially since Hyuk Seonu had the nerve to ask her to off her master. Boom! An energy blast is her answer to his wild request. Hyuk Seonu survives, but he's definitely not feeling 100%. He came to seal the deal on the hero's demise, but he's clueless why she's so mad. Then it hits him. She mentioned master. Hyuk Seonu yells it's a mix-up, even though she confirms she's an apprentice. Miryong explains they met in the tutorial tower. Even though he doesn't get why she thinks she's the hero's student, he hopes it's his ticket out. Since Miryong isn't Korean, Hyuk Seonu figures Hyonu might be her master. To break it down, he says there are 158 towers worldwide, each in different spots, and from what he knows, the Korean tower only calls people from there. Miryong asks if that's all he's got, and when he says yes, she boots him out with zero chill. She wonders if that was his best shot at staying alive. Miryong admits Hyuk Seonu's right about the tower summoning locally, but too bad for him, she finished the Korean tutorial tower. She was salty back then, dragged into the tower by her dad's orders. Hyuk Seonu still asks if she's sure Hyonu's the one she met in the tower. The girl says doubting her is like denying her whole existence, as everything about her matches her master's style, from her hair to her hips, the master's mark on her back, and even her name. So, to her, there's no bigger diss than that. Miryong warns him not to expect a chill end, especially since he tried to off her master and denied her by rejecting their bond to save his skin. Meanwhile, in Av's dimension room, the hero shows her the TV. At first she was like, what's this for? But soon she was hooked. Avi even asks the hero to make a PlayStation she saw on TV. She really wants to try it out, but she's just a guardian assistant system, so she can't make stuff herself. After thinking it over, the hero decides to treat her a bit. She hugs him tight, super thankful to try new things, which makes the hero feel like he's taking care of a daughter. Switching gears, Av says she needs to share something, even if it might be a trick, but it's their secret. Later, back home, the hero's friends wonder why he's staring at his food instead of eating. Av had told him about a new climber possibility. Before he left the tower, there were 3 crevasses total. Usually, a crevasse should vanish, but 2 of these 3 haven't, leaving the hero deep in thought. Switching topics, Seokwon reminds the hero he's off to Germany in 3 days. He offers to tag along, but Hyonu says it's a quick trip. Seokwon wants to hit the tourist spots, but Hyonu knows there's no time for that. Seoyeon thinks the mage hunters can fix the damage fast. Mages can whip up magic circles, so fixing up the city is like turbo speed 10 times faster. That's why no city gets totally wrecked by all those monster invasions. Big shout out to the mage class hunters. Oh, and Seoyeon spills the tea about a big auction happening in Germany soon. Basically, the International Hunters Association is throwing this epic auction in Germany. So since the hero's heading there, his squad wants to hitch a ride with him, teleport style. Which, to Seokwon's joy, the hero's totally cool with. About the Hunters Association, digging deeper, they think the crevasses are all about levels. So, if Av's right, there are still 2 climbers, but reaching them is going to be a grind. Plus, Hyonu's got more on his plate. He definitely needs to level up because, even though he's been in some battles, they were mid-level, not top tier. Seoyeon listens in and asks what kind of prep this is. She giggles at him for zoning out, but says if he needs prep, it should be a quick 3-day thing. In the end, those 3 days for the trip zoomed by, and 5 days later, the German auction kicked off. Meanwhile, over in China, some shady stuff's going down with Hyuk Seonu's papers getting torched. The boss went to meet the Pado Guild at 1 p.m. at the Central Palace, but he hasn't come back, which is kinda sus. Chances are, something went down with him. Thinking the boss might be toast, the sidekick's in a rush to ditch the evidence and bounce. He figures he can slip away since he's just a second-rate helper. Maybe that'd fly if it wasn't the Pado Guild we're talking about. But then, out of nowhere, someone cuts in on the guy at the hotel. This dude, probably a Pado hunter, chuckles about not offing him without some fun first. Still, the sidekick freaks out cause he's facing a numbered knight. These assassin hunters from the central office are called knights, and they're usually top 40. The guy wonders why knights are here, but deep down, he knows the score. Instincts kick in, and he tries to crawl away, but with no chance of winning, the obvious happens. A payback against the Aries Guild. Other hunters show up asking about the target and get told it's done. Finally, they get it's time to bounce and chat about waiting for Hyuk-seonu to show, but they figure it's not needed, cause they might have already helped. About the guy who got the dungeons, 4 hunters were sent to take him out, and even though it seems like overkill, they get it cause he handled the last big mess. Finally, Yeonu's chilling with his crew, watching the auction kickoff. Seokwan's like, when's the hero ditching that sports hoodie? Sihyun gets wearing it in some places, but not here. But the hero's more bugged by them hating on his style, especially since he rocked the same look at the award ceremony, and nobody said a thing. Switching gears, Seoyeon mentions no S+ rank items today, but she's not too bummed cause they're rare. Hyonu hears this and realizes his mysterious goddess of chaos essence is one of those items. He snagged it at the award ceremony, a spoil from the mysterious goddess of chaos. But, besides the rank, there's no info on what it does. Then he remembers his buddy kinda dissed it too. Plus, with all the authority limits, nobody knows squat. Back at the auction, the first item goes for a cool 1 billion to buyer number 32. Hyonu checks the item's deets, thinks it's decent, but even seeing an S-rank item like the Great Spear of Aslan, he's not into it. Especially knowing it's a knockoff without the backstory makes him want to bail. Outside the auction, there are hunters, but even trying to flex his past, Hyonu clocks one without a care. Truth is, he's overhearing cocky extras yap. So, this time, he warns he's gonna give them a good lesson. And from their faces, it's clear they regret clocking in that day. In Martin's office, his sidekick spills the tea about the branch leader in Korea, who's probably still kicking. As for the other dude, he says they're about to throw hands. But Martin peeps that his assistant's stressing that the knights might not be up for the challenge. When he asks, the kid says numbers 4, 7, 9, and 10 got sent. Martin's chill though, he knew 4 knights wouldn't be enough to take him down. His plan was just to see how his artifacts would mess with him. Meanwhile, Hyonu just clapped those assassins and snagged one of those artifacts. So it's not an L yet, Martin's still getting his answers. In a shady spot, someone's chilling at a massive table. The evil vibes this dude's giving off scream he's not your average Joe. He finally asks what's up, and another guy there says 2 climbers got wrecked. He spills the names of the 2 who hit the 9th layer. The evil dude claps, thinking the Guardian would be easy pickings for the climbers. The next one to hit the 9th layer? Still up in the air. But with this curveball, the dude's hyped to see what happens. Later, back to our main guy. He's got a bag stuffed with war loot. His squad's shook when they leave the auction and see him surrounded by bodies. But thank goodness the cameras caught it all. Sion asks if he found anything, but the hero's like, nope, nada. Plus, it's wild how the CCTV caught it all without anyone noticing. But more than that, the kid roasts the hero for leaving them unrecognizable, especially since it looked like a one-sided smackdown. Yonu remembers their attack combo was tricky, but nothing he couldn't handle. Since they were out in the open and casting distortion spells, there'd be no records. Finally, Sihyun bounces to grab some souvenirs before heading back to Korea, but he's vague about who they're for. So, the main guy's left solo with that massive bag, and he's curious to dig through it. And boom. Using his status power, he finds Bjorg's hungry spear, but with info power, it's renamed Imitation. There's a bunch of stuff with this imitation tag, hinting at a fake with some random code. He thinks they might be fake artifacts, but Hyonu finds zilch about the creator. In the end, he's got a hunch something's up. Yesterday's attackers were a cut above the rest, so 2 thoughts pop up. Either they're Aries Guild peeps or mercenaries, which makes finding the mastermind trickier. Putting that aside, the hero knows he's got no time to waste on the artifact mystery at least. After all, he's still gotta go back and teach Hyuk-seonu a lesson. Right after that thought, the hero storms into the guild, kicking the door and accidentally hitting an innocent employee. Hyonu demands to know where Hyuk-seonu is, if not in the office, and obviously threatens the kid for playing dumb. Sadly, all he knows is Hyuk-seonu bounced 4 days ago. And where to? He said he was off to China for a meeting with the Pato Guild. That night, at his buddy's crib, Hyonu asks if the kid knows anything about the Imperial Guild. The kid spills that it's taken over almost all the dungeons in China, even though they had only half not long ago. It wasn't easy, but in China, it's legal to take over by force. Hyonu gets the survival of the fittest vibe, but the kid warns it wasn't always like this. At first, all the dungeons were the countries, so transferring was a pain. Until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, things flipped. Rumor has it the person who changed the laws is now the Pato Guild leader, and the timing was perfect for them to swoop in. After hearing all this, the hero tries to remember if he ever talked about the outside world with his disciple. Back in the day, during one of their first meetups, Miryung asked if the hero knew who he was chatting with, but he just told her to zip it and ordered her to be his disciple. Miryung was all about following the crowd to survive. But then, boom. Fate threw her into danger with this mysterious masked dude. And even though Hyonu seemed kinda harsh, he made it super clear that as his top student, he'd never let her bite the dust. But plot twist, he sent her packing because he'd taught her all his tricks. Miryung didn't want to bounce, but Hyonu showed her she wasn't the timid, weak girl anymore. So she wasn't gonna let anyone boss her around anymore. His parting words? Never forget his lessons and remember, nothing's above her except him and the sky. These were some of the epic lines he dropped, but he was so into his speech, he missed her comeback. Would have been cool if he could recall it now. Sion then spills the tea about the Pado Guild being this epic empire. Even without much intel beyond the gossip, the heroes chill and ready to jet. Next stop, China, or more specifically, the Pado Guild. In the Imperial Guild Palace in China, nighttime is chill time for the squad leader. But even after 4 years, everything's still crystal clear in her mind. The tower was a game changer, teaching her that some things just can't be bought. She realized her own weakness, but just when she was about to crash, she found her master. For someone raised like a puppet, spending only as the political scene dictated, Hyonu showed her a new kind of love. Unlike her dad, who didn't see her as a daughter, her master taught her to stand her ground. Hyonu definitely saved her from a grim destiny. With more wins, no one in China will stand against the Pado Guild. And when that happens, Miryong's gonna track down her master. She mentally promises him it won't be long. In a capital city hotel, those hunters from before get a text to stop Hyonu. One's chill, but the other's freaking out. The young dude admits he's scared too, but knows running isn't an option. As assassins, they gotta prioritize, maybe stall until they take out Hyonu. Still, why Martin sent them on this wild mission is a head-scratcher. They know the young guy doesn't mess up. There are 10 knight members ranked by strength, often boosted by artifacts. But the hero took out 4 solo. The plan was to dodge fights until absolutely necessary. Then, out of nowhere, the hotel shakes like an earthquake, and one knight gets slammed into the wall. His buddy whips out his weapon just in time to defend against the attacker. A Pado Guild member's there to see if they're behind Wu Cheon-myung's death. The knight yells, asking who he is, but blades fly in, and his head hits the ground before he can react. The masked dude tells the assassin not to hold a grudge. Since they offed the subordinate his master wanted gone, he had to take their remains. Next day, at the Aries Guild's B2 training center, the mage asks why the hero's going if he's whining so much. All he says is he's got to clear up a misunderstanding. For Hyonu, who lost his parents young, survival was the focus, not this drama. But everything flipped when he hit the chaos of the tower. Acting weird solo was fine, but he didn't expect a disciple to spill his past. The hero's set on taking down Hyonu and bouncing back ASAP. The girl asks about his trip, considering they're turning a blind eye. It's illegal immigration, but the hero insists it's no vacation. The problem's there, but he's not sweating it. Hyonu's always handled things, but this time Seoyeon's unsure. Anya's got it worse, pulling an all-nighter because the hero decided to dip suddenly, so Seoyeon rolls up to her, ready to ask something super important. Then, boom, a few seconds later, our hero's eyes pop open in China. And oh boy, he probably wishes he hadn't, cause he's staring at the Pado Guild's cringeworthy slogan. The only thing above you is the sky, or basically, just him and the sky, as he once told his disciple. Anyway, the soldiers are yelling, all, who's this dude, and demanding ID, but Hyonu's just over it and hops the wall. I mean, before he deals with Aries' head honcho, he's gotta wreck this nonsense. Hyonu's all business, using his shadow step to go ham on the building. The soldiers are freaking out, calling for backup like it's a fire drill, but Hyonu's even more ticked when he sees these clowns rocking his mask. Usually he dodges attacks like a pro, but now he sees they're using his moves. He's mad cause the copy is so lame, even though he sold the idea, it was legit. And seriously, he can't believe his disciple taught them this stuff. So he's like, y'all are doing it wrong, and shows them with some epic moves. He zips around, showing them how it's done with the Demon King strike, sending them flying but not, killing anyone. But even without any fatalities, he catches the eye of someone he totally didn't expect. Miryong shows up, and Hyonu instantly knows it's her by her vibe. And yeah, he also recognizes her by the soft look she gives him. Anyway, Miryong's all emotional, asking if he's her master, so with no other option he's like, yeah, it's been a while. For ages, Miryong did everything to make a place for her master, from starting a guild to changing laws and stuff, but all the props she got didn't matter, cause it was all for her master. So she kneels and says she's been waiting for him for 1,532 days, 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 30 seconds. Even though the hero's feeling awkward, everyone's bowing to the real boss of China's biggest guild. After their little reunion, they head to the master's blinged-out throne. Hyonu's feeling all weird being treated like a deity, so Miryong asks if he's not into it, cause if he's not, she's ready to axe the chairmakers. Hyonu's like, chill with the nonsense, and tells her to relax. Sitting there, he's just thinking about how much cash went into this throne. And honestly, he's not even sure why he's sitting there. Hyonu's not one to follow the crowd, but his students' pressure was too much to handle. The backstory is he saved his disciple in the tower and taught martial arts like in the stories. But the lessons were just to keep up his image, so he didn't look for her after. He tests her by calling and dismissing her, and she listens both times. He's clueless on how to handle someone who respects him so much after all that. But he remembers he's here to end this charade. Since he hasn't seen it yet, he uses his status authority, and the super loyal personality trait really stands out to him. So he's got some stuff to say, but first he asks about a guy named Hyuk Seonu who should be around. Luckily he finds him, and he's not as bad off as expected. Having done his bit, he gives the girl props for it. Finally, Hyonu wakes the guy with a kick, and he's all shocked seeing him. But despite the mix-up, Hyuk Seonu's begging to be saved from this wild disciple, which would totally get him in more trouble if the master wasn't there. So, the hero says he'll let the guy live if he spills some info, but only if he talks, starting with everything he knows about the Germany events. In a bunker near NYC, 3 knights are stressing over another gig. Meanwhile, Martin's like, nail this, and you'll score an SST plus ranked artifact. In the main office of the Goguryeo Guild in South Korea, they're getting grilled about when the next labyrinth adventure is happening. They're still on the fence, trying to decide, since the last artifact they snagged was pretty sweet. Seoyeon, though, is all, what's the rush, since Seon hasn't even sold his loot yet. But the dude's all serious, thinking he needs to level up his skills pronto. Even though he was the first to bail from the tower, their squad's been shrinking cause their skills are stuck in neutral. Seokwan's like, maybe it's cause they're too busy running their own guilds. But then, everyone remembers the big gap between them and the main character. Meanwhile, over at the Pato Guild, it's clear everything's orders from the Aries Guild boss. 2 of those sneaky knights are still kicking and spilled the beans. So, Hyuk Seonu begs again, and the hero's like, I'll keep my word. Down in the underground, there's a D-rank dungeon called the Rat Labyrinth. Basically, it's a rat party where they munch on humans but only hurt if you've got C+ resistance. That's why the wild disciples all, if I can't escape, I'm gonna be in pain forever. Since the hero's not a total jerk, he decides to give Hyuk Seonu 30 days in this rat trap, and obviously the ex-branch chief's got no say in the matter. When the young dude gets KO'd, a ring slips off his finger. It's the Ushurian ring of ST+ rank boosting strength, but it's also a fake artifact. So, since the orders came from the top dog, Hyonu's ready to make him pay too. Without wasting time, he announces he's moving on, which the girl thinks means he's ditching her. Finally, the hero leaves a promise for next time, cause he's gotta deal with the Aries Guild first. So, he bounces, leaving her solo, and she tells her crew to listen up. She orders that all Aries Guild members in the area need to be wiped out. In Av's room, even though she's not 100% sure, she calls the ring a fake artifact. It's explained that artifacts are made from stuff from other layers, and, after checking them out, they're taken to labyrinths and linked to stories or legends for power. In this case, the hero wonders what happens to the other layers when they take their stuff. But, even though she can't say much, Av says they vanish cause climbers need to wreck the floor to climb the tower. Back to the ring, Av thinks it's a top-notch fake, which, in her opinion, makes more sense if a climber made it. Earlier, Av mentioned there might be 2 climbers on this layer. But, anyway, he says the girl needs to clean up the place big time. There were even food crumbs on the couch, so using that control, the hero just makes the console vanish. And he warns he'll keep it until he comes back. Obviously Av, who's now hooked, yells she'll do anything to get it back, and even though the hero seems to dig it, Av gets so stressed she starts crying. Later, at night, in the Imperial Pato Guild of China, one of those numbered knights sneaks around and jumps from a tree to a small open spot on the roof where he manages to slip in. He knows the risk from his captured buddies, but the rewards are tempting. What he didn't see coming, though, was Miryong already waiting for a rat to show up. Super chill, the girl asks if the guy's from the Aries Guild too, which makes the knight back off, not having sensed her there. Then, she asks him to hang tight so she can blow off some steam. In a flash, before he gets it, a scream from the knight is all that's heard. One thing the hero didn't see coming was all of Hyuk Seonu's data getting wiped. But where he was supposed to meet his buddy, he finds 2 knights already waiting. For a moment, the hero thinks of Sihyun but remembers he went home. A knight, in turn, assures the boy he doesn't need to sweat about his pals. But the truth is, Hyonu's already plotting a visit to the knights. Suddenly, dude's yeeted off the building, and the two assassins are diving after him like it's some extreme skydiving challenge. The X-Rank S, 8th in line, plays Frost, is all ready with a spear, and he just chucks it. But our hero's like, nah, catches it easy peasy, and says he's gonna toss it back, but poof, it vanishes and boomerangs back to him. Without a second thought, he whacks it with all his might from behind. Word on the street is, this is the returning sonic spear, always boomeranging back to its owner. Then, out of nowhere, a bunch of papers start swirling around him, forming a paper fortress. And guess who's behind this? The top mage of the knights, Ascetic. Besides paper tricks, he's got magical weapons up his sleeve. Place Frost's all, props for still grinning hero, but Hyonu's just roasting them, so Place Frost charges, hoping to make him eat his words. Hero's like, wow, they're faster, but still not fast enough to catch him. After a punch, some magic projectiles hit the ground, and boom, smoke everywhere. Using the smoke, Place Frost sneaks up, but Hero's got ninja reflexes and blocks it. The mage is like, let's blow stuff up, and helps his buddy with a bang. Hyonu's thinking he needs to use a special move, even if it's not perfect. Suddenly he's gone, then bam, he's behind the strongest dude. They're all suspicious, and he goes, this move's called conversion distortion. It's a footwork trick, but Ascetic's like, I was ready for this. Hero's feeling the heat for not having his mana game on point. Place Frost's back with another sneak attack, and there's another hit from the front. Mage is blasting mana spears to slow him down, while the Lancer's got a combo going. Conversion distortion's still a work in progress and needs time. But suddenly, Hero's chillin', like he's setting a trap. Place Frost thinks he can beat it if he strikes first. His next move makes him think he's won through the mist, but surprise, that's how he gets caught. Place Frost should have known the hero's durability is level S++, so his attack wasn't a KO, and now he's in for a wild ride. Hero's like, ever been on a roller coaster? 'Cause you're about to. Overnight, that house got wrecked. When Sihyeon came back, he was like, where do I even start with this mess? All he wanted was to know when he could clean it all up. Seoyeon shows up and goes, wow, this place is a disaster. But she jokes, at least it's all sorted now. Luckily, the Hunters Association's got the damages covered, and no one got hurt. But the boy's like, check out this viral video on my phone. It's the one where the hero grabs Place Frost by the hair and drags him to the top of the building, then slams him down like a meteor. Even Seoyeon's shocked, but hey, the crowd's loving it. But just like before, the hero dodged the reporters, and now his phone's blowing up with messages. He just changed his number, and he's like, dude, be more responsible. Anyway, Hyonu hands over a gift as a sorry and says he's off to use the magic cycle again. When he leaves, the boy checks it out and sees it's an SST plus rank artifact and yells, we're even! At Soyeon's guild, the hero's catching up on news about Martin Brand. Ascetic spilled the beans after dealing with him. Turns out, Martin, the guildmaster, ordered the hit and was hiding in a secret lair, and he recorded it all for proof. Finally, Anya's like, circle's done, but she looks wiped. He asks to be zapped to the Aries Guild HQ, but first, he tosses a phone to Anya and says, use this one now. And she's all excited, surprising Hyonu. When the portal kicks in, bam, our hero's zapped into a cave and it's def not Aries' office. First thought, Anya's betrayal, but then surprise. Someone's there, all, hey, nice to meet ya. Even Martin's like, whoa, you know me already? Hyonu's not missing a beat, flexing about those assassins he trashed. But Martin's all, nah, those knights were just bait, dude. I'm the guardian of the 9th floor. Hyonu tries to pull rank, but nope, nada. Seems like he's a climber, which is wild for a guildmaster. Hero's thinking, cool, multitasking problems. Martin's like, you know why I sent those coordinates? Hero's all confident, but oops, it's a trap. Hyonu's like, whatever, and charges in, no hesitation. But bam, a barrier stops him, and Martin's like, this ain't your average barrier. It not only blocks but yeets him back, and when he regroups, he's shook, 'cause there's a ton of magical weapons aimed right at him. So, the dude's like, let's do intros again. Martin's all, I study motives, I'm sacred for the weak, doom for the strong, call me the imposter. Then, boom, the young guy attacks, and our hero's dodging like crazy. He can't get close, needs to use conversion distortion. But where? With a barrier like this, weak attacks are a joke. Hero starts prepping a magical attack, like with other climbers. Wants to use Asura attack, but it's slow, so he goes with plan B. Hyonu charges with mana wings, smashes the barrier with a divine kick, shields down, and he follows up with another hit from above, but a few words zap all the power from his attack. Martin's like, nope, drains all the mana from the hero, Then, with a solid punch, sends Hyonu flying meters away. Hero's like, "No mana? What?" Martin's like, "We're in frozen mana zone, bro." And he's been watching Hyonu since the Guardian hunt started. Turns out, most of Hero's skills need mana, but Hero's done with the lecture. Martin's like, "You get the sitch?" Hero's like, "We're both toast." Aries Guild leader's like, "True, no mana for me either, but I got artifacts." Hyonu can't even use footwork, so he gets hit trying to bail, and resistance levels no help, cause artifacts are S+ rank. Hero's thinking he's stuck, but inside that barrier, he starts hunting for what's freezing the mana, and boom, it's the spear. Gets closer, finds a strong barrier but not strong enough to stop him. After a counterattack, he's on the ceiling, launching at Martin. Remembers a cool kicking move he read about, Divine Kick of the Thunder God. The impact's epic, and he's ready for round 2, but Martin's like, "Too bad," and strikes with his spear. Almost nails the hero, but he dodges last second, skidding across the ground. Even without mana, Hero's skills are lit. Martin's impressed, so he shows off more skills. He's got the Divine Sword of Asura, which can borrow powers from other weapons. Alright, buckle up, cause this is gonna be epic. So check it, they managed to cram over 24 powers into one item. Wild, right? In a blink, Martin's all up in Hyonu's face, and poor Hyonu's feeling like a turtle in a race, totally outpaced. And to make things worse, his mana's frozen, so dodging. Yeah, not happening. Martin's not just chillin' after one hit, oh no. He switches up his sword and keeps whacking Hyonu until he's coughing up blood. Then, Martin whips out the one weapon he didn't clone, cause he's got the OG. He pulls out the legendary sword, Gigantomachia, from his inventory, and with that beast of a weapon, he doesn't even hesitate, just lets it drop on Hyonu to bury him like a bad secret. Boom! Lights, smoke, and a massive explosion. But even Martin's like, whoa, what just happened? Cause even though he went all out, Hyonu's still standing, barely, but standing. Anyway, Hyonu's got a question, which is kinda weird since he's got a shot now. Finally, he asks why they're trying to off him. Martin's like, "It's easier to wreck the floor by taking out the Guardian." And about climbing the tower, it's all about claiming the throne. Hyonu's still clueless about this throne business, but Aries' boss is ready to wrap this up. Then, Hyonu's all, "Thanks for the battle tips, now I'm gonna make you vanish." But first, he pulls a disappearing act himself. Hyonu bails to the system room, and since he's beat up, Av swoops in to help him tweak the place. Back in the cave, Martin's fuming, cause he can't track Hyonu's location to finish him off. But then, he spots a mana thread hanging around. And since teleporting's all about space jumps, that thread means Hyonu's not really gone. Being in another dimension's not something anyone would catch, but Martin's on it, ready to end this. In Av's dimension, she's shocked to be on the tower's first floor, but even more shocked that Hyonu's still hurting, despite the mana treatment. She's all, "We need a potion or healing artifact stat. A climber who can copy artifacts and freeze mana? Yeah, that's a mess." And Hyonu can't hang here for more than 20 minutes. But he tells Av with a grin that he's done training. She doesn't get it, but figures it's all good. So, she says she'll bounce, but tells him to think up a better plan. Hyonu just gives her a head pat, cause he's sure this time, it's gonna be lit. Finally, without needing a rescue, Hyonu steps out of the dimension, all casual. Martin's been waiting, and he's like, "Welcome back." But Hyonu just laughs, cause he knows Martin's about to get wrecked. Martin, all ticked off, gears up to smack down Hyonu's cockiness. Hyonu's been mastering tons of martial arts in the tower, most of them imaginary, but his main focus wasn't martial arts. The flora movement to blend flowers into a tree was more of a concept. In stories, it's called a principle, but since he couldn't nail the technique, he stopped training. He had loads of masters in his head, but none to clear his doubts. But in just 6 hours, Hyonu had a light bulb moment in the system room. All those hours following book tips and battling climbers with opposite styles, all of it now gave him a way to nail the flora movement principle. Martin's face changes when he sees his attacks bouncing off Hyonu, who shouldn't be using mana but is still chill. No visible changes in him, and besides his wounds, the dude's got no artifacts, but something went down in those 6 hours. Martin was just gonna mess around a bit before taking out the hero, but he gets it. He can't waste time and needs to finish him off ASAP. When he sees Hyonu's planning to block with just one hand, Martin's confidence is back, but then, poof, the hero's hands start vanishing into thin air. And out of nowhere, part of Martin's armor goes kaboom. Hyonu keeps up those slick moves and, with just a tap on Martin's belly, sends him flying with the Supreme Leader's Mega Punch move. Then, the dude charges in and smacks Martin from top to bottom, slamming him into the ground. From his sweet spot, Hyonu tries to hit again, but Martin dodges, so he has to back off. Standing up again, Martin warns the hero he's in deep trouble. His face is all grumpy, and the vibe around him screams danger. Turns out it's pure mana, not just some cheap artifact trick. It's explained again that the weapon Gigantomachia can borrow stats from other weapons. But the hero just sees the warning as a toddler's tantrum, ticking Martin off even more. Deep down, Martin knows his body can't handle this power, and he needs to end it with one epic hit. So, the weapon crashes down on our hero with all its might, putting crazy pressure on the kid's hand until, boom, an epic explosion. Martin's dreaming of victory, but as the dust clears, the idea of Hyonu being cocky for using one hand is toast. And worse for Martin, he sees mana being exhaled. Actually, it was his own energy, but Hyonu, being chill, wanted to return it with a mega punch. So, using the first move of the Flora style, the 1,000 reflective punches technique kicks in. Martin takes the hit, trying to hold on, but it's on a whole new level, wrecking everything in its path. In the end, only Hyonu's left standing, and a notification pops up, congratulating the hero's win over the hidden climber. Even though Martin's body starts to fade away, one thing stays put. And when he grabs it, a message says it's an S++ grade subspace for storing stuff. At the same time, the item tries to ID what's going in the subspace and spots the Gigantomachia. So, the S+ rank item gets stored, being the giant king's treasure that can split the skies. Hyonu, though, thinks the reward's kinda lame cause the subspace only holds 15 items. Anyway, it's time to head back, but his clothes and phone are a mess. But then, someone opens the room, telling the master it's almost time to bounce. But, unlucky for him, he didn't expect to find the hero there, and without missing a beat, Hyonu hugs him, sending the guy to the floor with a punch. And since he's already beat, he decides to chill out a bit, and casually threatens him to hand over the clothes and a phone. 3 days later, at the Korean branch of the Hunters Association, everyone's buzzing, hearing Hyonu's gonna spill the beans on who attacked him live. Naturally, when he shows up, everyone's got their cameras out, and as expected, the hero says he'll bounce right after he talks. Everyone there already knew some dudes tried to off his buddy at his house, and conveniently, the hero not only found out who was behind it, but also got it on tape. In the audio, the knights themselves spill the beans that Martin ordered the hit, and even though it sounds fake, he's got loads more proof besides this. So he says he's really waiting for a formal explanation from the Aries Guild about what they mean. 3 days later, in the Gangdong district, tons of reporters swarm the hero's house to ask all sorts of questions. But inside, he's super busy cause he revealed they were in a tower and Earth is the 9th floor. Seokwon can't wrap his head around it, and neither can Seoyeon. The hero, though, doesn't think it's a big deal, but sees his friends are worried. Deep down, he knew this was coming, cause at first he was shocked too, but he had to spill the beans sooner or later. Seoyeon finally gets why Hyonu's always doing good deeds. With everything out in the open, Seoyeon asks if the hero went to stop a climber this time. But he shakes his head, saying he went to mess up the Aries Guild and, since it's still kicking, spills Martin's secret to everyone. In the end, the hero's friends are so loud he can't even handle staying in the room anymore. Especially since, even though Seoyeon's skeptical, Hyonu's all, I'm totally healed 100%. When the hero finally steps outside, a swarm of journalists is there to greet him. But the real shocker? His disciple's there too, with a limo ready to roll. Mir-young's all proud, saying she's there to pick up her master, but Hyonu's more worried than hyped. And then, it's the hero's pals' turn to be gobsmacked when they meet Mir-young. Hyonu even asks who the others are, so the girl explains they're his personal guard, but since the hero's not a fan, she sends them packing. Seokwon, meanwhile, is still trying to wrap his head around the Imperial Dragon standing right there. Sehyun explains it's a nickname for the top 5 hunters in the world. Hyonu's mind is blown because back when he was her teacher, he was so out of it. He barely taught anything useful, so it made 0 sense for her to be this strong. Mir-young, though, suddenly kneels down, yelling for her master to forgive her for not keeping his words, the words that no one could be above her and the sky stuff. But as she's spilling her dark past out loud, Hyonu has no choice but to bop her on the head and give her a good scolding. Anyway, even after getting scolded, Mir-young's acting like she's loving it. Sehyun tries to jump into the convo, but the girl's intense vibe makes him back off. Inevitably, the boy asks about their relationship, so the hero says she's his disciple while still giving her a talking to. But having the 5th ranked in the world as his disciple does mess with Sehyun's ego a bit. With everyone making such a fuss, Hyonu's starting to get a little ticked off. Seeing this, Mir-young immediately offers to wipe out everyone there, but the hero's like, nah, not even bothering to explain why. Then his attention shifts to a message he was waiting for. Now he's set on heading to the Sungnai district to chill for a bit. After all, those Aries Guild punks just sent a reply. Later, at the meetup spot, the hero sits down, and he says he only came because the person across the table wanted to chat with someone involved. Then he asks to hear what the Aries Guild's co-creator, Coward, has to say. In his head, Coward's whining about dealing with the fallout after Martin vanished. What Hyonu showed at the press conference plus the guild master's disappearance was a disaster, because, with the chance he took down Martin, he'd be way above his level. Anyway, knowing he needs to handle this fast, Coward asks what the hero wants, and without wasting time, he promises they'll do their best to give Max support. But he flips out when he hears the demand to hand over all the guild's dungeons and leave Korea. To back up his point, Hyonu says he knows all the shady stuff they did thanks to the boss. And from Coward's face, it's clear it's true. But, out of mercy, Hyonu tweaks the demand to just 40% of the dungeons, no room for negotiation, which leaves him pretty pleased. Leaving the place, Miryong's ready, and as Hyonu asked, she lets go of the guard she brought. Anyway, the hero decides to head home, and Miryong tries to hide what she's feeling, but just when he gets distracted, the girl zeroes in on Coward's desperate look. And when Hyonu goes out to check out his disciple's limo, she takes the chance to have her crew give the CEO a good lesson. Shortly after the order's given, it's done, and Coward's screaming, begging for mercy, and gets tossed against the wall. But what he can't wrap his head around is why the Imperial Guard's there in person. One of the guards blames Coward for this, and even though he doesn't get it, he gets punished. So the final warning is, they don't care about his actions, but they'll make sure he's toast if he ticks off Miryong again. In Av's dimensional space, the girl cries about enduring the cold there. The hero says she can call him when needed, but she explains there's a restriction. Av explains that when the Guardian enters the system room, she can't summon for 5 days. Anyway, the hero asks if any of his skills leveled up this time. From what he sees in the stats, his agility's up, and Av also notes the personality descriptions got better, so Hyonu's all hyped, thinking this new skill's gonna give him some epic perks. But, plot twist, he needs to level up more for any other cool upgrades. He flops onto the couch, super bored with how slow things are, but Av's got a tip, saying the Guardians might spill some tea. This girl starts talking about these climbers, reclimbers, who hit the tower again after reaching the top. Which means, if they've been there, they might have some juicy info. Thinking about the imposter, our hero remembers his throne goal, but still, no clue what that's about. And, oh snap, he needs to bounce now. But Av's not messing up this time. She remembers to ask for the PlayStation again. Feeling the heat, Hyonu quickly grants her wish. Over at the Hanam building in Gyeonggi-do, the massive construction is a total eye-catcher. But Miryong's all chill, saying it's a worthy gift for her master, even if it makes him feel awkward. Siyun's just standing there, speechless, cause this land was government-owned. Hyonu's like, how much cash did you drop on this? But she says it's peanuts compared to what she got from him, which makes our hero feel kinda guilty for being treated like a king. Cutting to the chase, Miryong asks if he wants to check out the inside. And while she's trying to read his mind, Hyonu blurts out, asking if she's a weirdo, which, spoiler alert, doesn't go well. Later, inside the mansion, Sihyun takes a jab at the hero, but he brushes it off and asks when his disciple's heading back to China. She feels a bit bummed, thinking she's a bother, but even with guild duties, Miryong's all about Hyonu. So the hero sends her off, feeling the pressure. After she leaves, Sihyun's curious if something went down between the guild and his buddy. Despite wanting to forget, Hyonu can't ignore Miryong's constant praise. Finally, he asks when the dude's heading to the US. To explain, he mentions a message from the International Association, probably about the new S-Class rankings shuffle. Remembering that rankings mean cash, Hyonu's pumped to go and cash in. Sihyun thinks it's a big deal, being honored and ranked higher, and the hero's on board with that. Fast forward a few days, in the US, the hero arrives at this massive building. All this just for the International Hunters Association. Mind-blowing, right? Then, Miryong offers to build an even bigger temple for him, but he passes. Finally, Sihyun meets Mr. Liam, who gives a warm welcome to both him and the hero. His friend introduces Mr. Liam as a senator on the council, and they exchange greetings. Mr. Liam tries to shake hands with Miryong, but she's not as eager as Hyonu. Anyway, Mr. Liam's a big fan of Hunter Hyonu. He asks if he's here for a ranking check, but duh, it's obvious, so he leads everyone inside. After a bit, the senator opens a door to the evolution room for S-rank hunters. Here, you touch the orb in the center, and your data gets compared with others. The hero's like, lame, no epic challenge, but he quickly zones in on the task and heads to the orb to flex his power. As his hands near the orb, the tension's real, and finally, the results pop up. But from his face, it might not be the news he wanted. Switching to Seoyeon, after a long grind, her team's celebrating a win. But this time, the monsters were next level tough, leaving her wiped out. Or maybe they got smarter. Who knows? Seoyeon decides to chill instead of stressing. After all, checking her phone, she sees news about the hero causing chaos again. Even with Sihyun around, she worries cause Hyonu's anything but ordinary. A few days back, they debated delaying a labyrinth expedition with 2 weeks to go. After all, Seokwan and his pals agreed to take a breather. Seoyeon, already knowing the deal, asked if Sihyun was tagging along with the hero. She also mentioned she couldn't go, had a meeting to wrap up that day. The girl was about to bounce, but Sihyun stopped her, had a question. He asked what gifts girls dig, which was kinda awkward, not gonna lie. Fast forward a few days back at the Aries Guild, the CEO's having a meltdown. The group's shares tanked after the leader's death, and all his cool stuff vanished. But his real headache? Hyonu swiped 40% of his dungeons, making him flip out. In his rage, someone barges in, and he remembers he hates interruptions. Until the visitor reveals he's Mason, a big shot from the International Hunters crew. Mason explains he's tight with Martin, who Coward knows all too well. Mason says things look rough, but instead of roasting him, he offers a bro hug. He says Martin wants to help, would be mad seeing his guild in shambles. To make it clear, Mason tells Coward to just follow his lead. Switching back to our hero, a message pops up saying it can't compute. He's annoyed, but the magic thingy keeps saying the same thing. Liam's worried, so Sion tests it and finds out his rank dropped. At least it's not busted, but Liam's still confused. Miryong takes a deep breath to say something embarrassing, but Hyonu yells for her to zip it. Anyway, to chill the hero out, Liam reminds him there's a banquet coming up, and since it's the International Hunters Association's birthday, he should chill. Soon after, Hyonu's munching away, putting the orb drama aside. But mid-chill, everyone's attention gets snagged by Track Rock, the tank-class hunter, third in the S rank. Everyone's worried cause Rock's got a rep, but Sion tells Hyonu to keep it cool. Rock's famous, but not in a good way, known as the Killer Hunter for shady stuff. Finally, Rock zeroes in on Hyonu, tells him to quit playing. He's good at handling the cocky ones, but the hero shoves his hand away, throwing the shade back at him. Rock's got no choice but to teach him a lesson. Liam tries to stop the brawl, yelling for Rock to chill, but the hero dodges the first hit, and by his look, he's sure he's not the one who's gonna regret it. With the Supreme Leader's fist, the wind alone sends the guy flying like a paper plane. Then, the hero jokes about hitting too hard, making Rock madder than ever. Sion can't believe he's witnessing the legendary tanker's moves. Using his unbreakable immortality skill, Rock rips a chunk of ground and hurls it at the hero. But the boy's unfazed, just smashes the thing with a flick of his arm. Rock used it as a diversion to sneak behind and land a heavy hit. The wind alone drags several guests along. Liam knows he needs to stop this fight, cause it's playing right into Mason's hands. In the end, Rock's bragging about landing the hit and wrecking stuff, but no one expected Hyonu to laugh it off. The hits barely tickled him, and now it's his turn. He's stoked. Hyonu clenches his fists, lands a punch that breaks through Rock's defenses. Rock's still standing, but the hero's already behind him, ready to make him a punching bag. After a few solid punches echo through the room, Sion compliments Rock's toughness for hanging in there after Hyonu's beatdown. But soon, he hits the ground, taken down by the hero who barely broke a sweat. After all, Rock wasn't just any tanker, but the third-ranked hunter worldwide. So beating him in a test could mean he's the new number 3. In this super spooky temple, way off the grid, behind these massive gates, there's this dude who's all about leveling up his powers, super focused. Then, boom, someone pops up, hyping him up as the ultimate demon, already nailing his epic move, High Olma. Honestly, the kid wasn't shocked, and his master totally expected it too. For this guy who's aced every martial art from Cheonma to Jongpa, being called a genius is just another Tuesday. So they ask him what's next on his epic quest, and without missing a beat, the top dog, rank S hunter Mu Shin, says he's gonna climb to the top to meet his OG master. Later, after the drama at the association, word gets out that Rock got wrecked, and Seoyeon's just like, meh, not surprised. Seokwan's all, why stress about the main dude? But the girl worries his power trip might end badly. I mean, smashing the hunter world with his bare hands is bound to tick off some folks. Switching gears, Seoyeon asks if her buddies heard any tea about Seon lately. Then he's all, why? She spills that he might have snagged a girlfriend, but Seon's acting all secretive about it. Meanwhile, Liam's feeling sorry for what the main dude went through yesterday. After that wild day, the party got axed, and Rock got whisked away by the rescue squad, putting the hero in the spotlight, so Liam talks the main dude into hitting up a hotel. Once they're there, he wants a quick chat. The hero's down, but first he tells Miryong to stay put, which totally throws her off and cranks up her beef with the senator. Finally, after getting the door shut in her face, she's super bummed, but even alone with Sihyun, there's this awkward vibe that bugs the guy. He thought she was all social since she's always bubbly around Hyonu, but since that's not the case, he tries to grab her attention, remembering her fave topic. He asks how she and the main dude met, which seems like a solid move. So she says she'll spill, but there's a catch. And since Sihyun's game, Miryong shyly asks about the hero's faves. The guy's a bit thrown, thinking of Hyonu's endless hunger, but ends up saying money. So Miryong bounces right after hearing that, saying she'll be back soon, and slams the door, leaving the guy totally puzzled. In the hero's private chat, Hyonu cuts the small talk and tells the senator to spill the tea. Then, keeping it real, Liam, assuming the hero knows Mason, who's also in the association, says he's got backing from big-shot government peeps and some top-tier hunters. Even though he's chill, he needs a new ally, so Liam wants the main dude on his team. After the big reveal, our hero zooms back to the hotel room so fast Sion's like, whoa. Switching topics, the main dude asks who his buddy's gonna gift the stuff he brought, but he keeps it on the down low. And, flipping the convo, he asks about the chat with Liam, but the hero says he wasn't asked to do anything. That answer leaves Sihyun itching to know what the senator's up to, but since the main dude's got an S-rank disciple and almost went solo against a world-class guild, just him being around is a big deal, cause even the rumor of a team-up would make Mason sweat. And about his reward for hearing something about it, the main dude says he can teleport whenever, even though they didn't really agree on that. But hey, at least Liam invited him to the next top 50 Hunters Bash by teleporting. In the Aries Guild's HQ, Coward says the Wild Ones have chilled out, just like Mason called it. The CEO's still curious about the kid's game plan cause Aries falling apart was a done deal. Plus, the story that he was just doing a solid for Martin didn't cut it. Coward knew he messed up, so he had to guard what was left. He said sorry for being lost in thought, saying he had stuff to sort out. But instead of getting ticked, Mason gave the guy a gift. A mysterious little black ball that's still a mystery. And with that, Mason promises if Coward helps him out, he'll spill the beans on controlling the guild peeps. Meanwhile, across Washington, in a hospital, the S-rank tank-class hunter Track Rock is having a rough time. He's hurting bad, but he jumps up when he realizes he's not alone. Turns out, Mason decided to drop by for a visit. Mason cuts to the chase, warning him about the hero, but it doesn't chill him out. He's never felt pain like this using his impenetrable body, and it's super similar to Mu Shin's technique. Speaking of the devil, Mu Shin himself pops up, asking if it's really that similar, and, not to be rude, Mu Shin gives them a proper hello. Seeing Mu Shin, Mason gets it, the young dude's training is done. So, with their ace ready, it's go time for them. Fast forward 2 weeks, the top 50 Hunters Banquet is happening. Liam's starting to think the main guy's a no-show. Eden, ranked 4th among S-rank hunters, tells the senator to chill about it. Riley chimes in, saying people usually RSVP by email or notes, but the senator's convinced the hero's different. But time's up, the congressman can't wait anymore. Inside, all the big shots are there, buzzing with excitement. Loads of high-ranking folks are there, making alliances and connections. Liam's chatting about the place's rebuild thanks to the mages, but Eden pulls the senator aside, warning about some sketchy arrivals. Among them is Mu Shin, the top-ranked hunter. Riley's puzzled why he's here, he's been MIA for ages. Liam's uneasy, sensing trouble brewing. Naturally, someone approaches Mu Shin, asking if all hunters are present. Hearing they are, he doesn't hesitate to make a guest's head vanish. Mu Shin's move is ruthless, and Liam's worries were spot on. Later, at the Aries Guild, the mage asks why the hero doesn't do this elsewhere. Hyonu's setting up a teleport circle, forgetting he's in his guild. It's a hassle since she needs to limit who comes in. Anya's not thrilled about moving, she'd have to start over. But Seoyeon's unfazed by Anya's hard work, leaving her bummed, despite the hero's attempts to calm her. She's been working on it after hours, needing 2 weeks to finish. But the protagonist steps in, easing her workload, making things better for her. Finally, Seoyeon asks why Hyonu took Liam's offer. The hero logically says it's for easy teleport access. Seoyeon doubts he just wants to travel, but he sticks to his story. Deep down, he's itching to go, fearing something bad's up. Suddenly, before he can enter the magic circle, someone bangs on the guild door, yelling for help. It reminds them of the person the protagonist captured earlier. Seoyeon rushes to the noise, but when she sees the guy, she slams the door shut. Not everyone can handle seeing someone in that state without freaking out. Finally, the hero opens it again, finding the guy in a sorry state. Desperate to see the light again, he's ready to spill everything he knows. Even Hyonu's surprised. He'd only locked him up for a month, but it's a golden chance. Back at the Hunter's Banquet, chaos erupts. Important guests are fleeing, while villains take down whoever they can. Liam risks it all to guide as many colleagues out as possible, but he's more worried that 3 S-rank hunters, top 50, were wiped out in under 5 minutes. Rock's already on his tail, ready to claim another victim. The fatal blow was certain if Eden wasn't there, ready to take down that wild maniac. Sadly, Riley's caught in a brawl with another ranker. She's struggling, yelling for the boss to run as Eden's also overpowered by the evil tanker. In the end, Liam drops to his knees, desperate, shouting why they're doing this madness. Mushin reveals it's a necessary step for world distribution, but it only raises more questions. Finally, better late than never, Hyonu shows up at the event with Miryong. And with a beastly hunter like him on the scene, Mushin switches up his game plan. When he gets there, the first thing our hero wants to know is why the place is a mess again. And of course, he turns to Liam, the organization guy, for some answers. But there's no time for chit-chat because Mushin jumps in, asking if he was the one who took down Rock. Hyonu's all, "Who's this dude?" So the guy introduces himself. Since his master's clueless, Miryong spills the tea. He's the top dog in the world rankings. Mushin's all, "Perfect timing, Hyonu, time for you to get wrecked." And he's not shy about it, saying he's got to take him out to climb the tower. Before our hero can even process, he gets smacked by a dark energy blast. But he blocks it, and now that he's heard about the tower, he's thinking he might be up against a climber. Using his info skills, he checks out Mushin's stats, and they're all off the charts S level. But Mushin's like, "Chill, I'm not a climber yet." But he's gonna be, cause he needs to level up to reach the top, and that's why he vanishes and pops back up to take out our hero. His punch is faster than a TikTok trend. So fast, our hero's gotta dive back to dodge it. But he's not backing down, he flips and kicks, landing a hit. But, bummer, it doesn't hurt him, and Mushin grabs his leg, figuring out his moves. So, being martial arts bros, Mushin's pumped to test their skills. He starts with a mega punch that sends our hero flying through walls. Miryong's freaking out for her master, but he's not alone. Cause, to take on the girl, rankers 2 and 3 are ready to rumble. Outside, the guys are in a loud, wild fight. Mushin's fists vanish, speeding up, making it tough for our hero to block. And more than that, he's ticked, cause his enemy said he wasn't a climber, but this pressure feels the same. Finally, Hyonu's not underestimating him. He whips out his magic powers as his secret weapon from the get-go. Mushin notices something's up, and he's a bit worried cause the mana around them is growing. This is thanks to the weeks of research our hero did. Asura's nullifying fist is kinda slow, but if he can grab the guy, it's game on. So, even though repeating the 10-step extermination isn't doable, to boost his mana, Hyonu decides to go big like a goddess. Mushin's feeling the heat from the hero's skills. As he stretches his hands, a ton of magic surges through our hero. Then, using the god Asura's martial arts style, he delivers his top nullifying punch. The energy is massive, even pushing our hero back a bit. But the end result's a letdown, cause Mushin stops it with one hand, not even a scratch. Hyonu's baffled at how he counters that, but the martial artist's done talking, and from behind he smacks the hero's back. The hit's hard, and Hyonu hits the ground, dizzy, but the enemy's relentless, kicking him away. Finally, Mushin can't help but say, Hyonu's got it all wrong. Even if it's not in his favor, he explains there's nothing great about the hero's skills. All the mana in his veins is just a sloppy release. Then he asks if that's all he's got, cause as someone who's trained for centuries, he's not going down easy. This last bit, though, wasn't what our hero expected. Seeing his stats, he thought it was tough to be number 1. But he forgot about the memory regression skill. Mushin spills that he's just a regular human, but with a skill to train forever, letting him master all martial arts and break free from being just mortal. For our hero, this doesn't add up, but he's more focused on gearing up for the next attack, since, after all that talk, he's ready to school him on the real deal of martial arts. The hunter's palm wind goes boom, and he zips behind our hero like a ninja. Then, bam, he lands the Cheonma's fist, sending the kid crashing down like a meteor. Even though he's hurt, the kid's not done yet. He pulls off the blue dragon kick and a reverse spin kick. Plus, he throws in the cursed wind fist and the demon dragon strike for good measure. Finally, he busts out the celestial dragon style and wraps it up with the divine northern sky move. All you see is this epic flash, and Mushin's just waiting, all hyped up. Then he spots the hero still standing, and he's like, "Whoa, respect." Hyonu knows if it was anyone else, they'd be toast by now. So he's thinking about bailing to subspace, but then realizes Miryong's next on the hit list. So he stands his ground, ready to rumble, catching the enemy off guard. Even though he's wiped out, he knows he needs his secret move or it's game over, but his body's on strike. Then, after tanking a bunch of hits, the system's like, "Here's a durability boost, bro." Back to the martial artist, he's still giving props, but now he's serious about ending it. He whips out the flying dragon attack, and bam, a magic dragon shows up. But surprise, Hyonu's vanished and pops up behind the martial artist, who totally whiffs his shot. So, the hero seizes the moment and dishes out Cheonma's punch. This time, it flips the script, giving our hero the upper hand. Hyonu's wild mana suddenly chills out, and it's not even a martial arts thing. Even if he's got questions, the hero's got them too, so he just mimics all the enemy's kicks, no biggie. Plus, he copies the Divine Northern Sky move, just for kicks. Mushin's mind is blown, and the hero's like, "I've been watching, dude." Hyonu's been channeling his mana into his eyes, scoping out the enemy's moves. And it was a piece of cake, cause the technique was smooth like butter. But it came with a price, even though it was the only way to go. Even with some damage, the martial artist can't believe his moves got jacked. There's a big gap between watching and doing, but with all the hero's epic experiences, and with his massive mana and wide KI channels, he pulled off the impossible. So now he's ready to show what he's learned in action. Back at the hunter's party, the place is trashed, and Liam's not just hurt, he's stressing out. With the other hunters down, he thinks Miryung can't handle the big league rankers. Rock's being a jerk, teasing her about being tiny, and she tells him to scram. But Rock's too full of himself to even think about leaving. So, even though she wants to watch her master fight, she figures taking out the tanker might help Hyonu. In a flash, the first hit lands, and it's aimed at the second strongest hunter, who gets his head slammed into the ground. Rock's freaking out cause he didn't even see her move. Miryung's like, "Dude, you were never safe." Cause even before he ticked her off, he'd already racked up too many sins, so he's gotta go down hard. Back to the hero's showdown with the top S ranker, they're trading blows in the air like it's a video game. Explosions are wrecking the street, but they keep going like Energizer bunnies, until the hero lands a killer hook, sending Mushin flying into the rubble. Now the martial artist's fuming, thinking Hyonu's got this skill to level up mid-fight. Something only true martial arts masters can do, so he decides it's time to go all out. His body starts oozing this creepy black energy, and after a gust of wind, the hero's in for a nasty surprise. Mushin's gone full Descendant of the Demon God mode. In the hero's head, this isn't what a climber should look like, but Mushin's sure he's got this in the bag now. Still, the hero's not scared, cause he can do something just as wild, being a martial arts whiz himself. But remembering Cheonma's martial skill, Hyonu just can't copy that one. But now that he gets the whole martial arts vibe, he can totally make a copy. And being a pro, Mushin knows this move super well. It's the OG skill of the Thunder God. Back at the association's wrecked party, Miryung totally schools Rock, who starts flailing around like a fish out of water. For a dude always seen as strong, getting whooped twice was a major brain freeze. But Miryung couldn't care less about his bruised ego. So after knocking him out, she just says it's not about skills, it's about martial arts, duh. Plus, she's got no time to waste. Her master's in the middle of a brawl. Back in the main showdown, all you see are the epic lights of their powerful moves clashing. Even with this new glow-up, the hero's still going toe-to-toe, trading punches. Hyonu's body is screaming for a timeout, but Mushin's sweating he might lose. Since it was a noob move, the Thunder God was draining the hero's mana. Mushin, on the other hand, was worried his defense might go poof. So, in their state, they both knew they couldn't keep brawling there. Before launching an attack, the hero spots a black vortex creeping up and dodges. It messes up everything it touches, barely missing him, but Mushin thinks the death vibes should clue the boy in on the move. Seeing this, the hero roasts the ranker for using magic instead of martial arts. But all Mushin cares about now is stopping the boy. So, he channels more of that black energy, forming a core in his gut, and fires up the demon god's extermination. All that energy blasts out in a powerful hit. Since he managed to land it on the hero, he chills out, but not for long, because he sees Hyonu somehow holding that energy with his hands. And then, poof, it vanishes with a cheeky grin on his face. Mushin can't believe this is real life. But, as the boy was taught before, now the hero's ready to teach. And, leveling up his martial arts from the critiques, he unleashes the second coming of the Thunder God on Mushin. The energy beam is more epic than anything, and the explosion is off the charts. Hyonu, though, isn't fazed by his own magic, and finally, the system dings his victory. With this win, his info authority levels up from low to medium, and he gets a heads up about a forced summoning to the system room in 3 days. Finally, even though he won, the hero's not looking too hot. But he scores an item called Mushin's Incomplete Origin, spilling the beans on his training secrets. But terms like Reserve List Assistance or Labyrinth Stone Meter are total gibberish. Finally, Miryung shows up with Liam, and the hero can finally grin and celebrate, cause even though it was tough, he still came out on top. Although, from a distance, a sneaky camera catches all these moments. At a shady round table, somewhere mysterious, the black climber hears about the hidden climber's defeat, plus the reserve. So, he finds it all pretty juicy, thinking there'd be no drama. The truth is, humans don't level up easily, but in crises, they totally step up. One of the roundtable peeps asks if this will be a problem for the climbers, but it's said that at least Mu Xin hadn't met a high-ranking member yet since he was a reserve. But, in this member's view, the Guardian will never meet a higher-ranked climber, and the other nods in agreement. After all, even though he's riding this fake victory high, his end is just around the corner.